I think the development of full artificial intelligence would spell the end of the human race.
It's a flying object, and we don't know what it is. I would hope somebody is checking it out.
It was a rocket or whatever, but incredibly fast, opposite direction. It was too fast to be an airplane.
I'm glad the Pentagon is looking at this, because if it poses a threat, I want them on top of it.
Well, the craft generates its own gravitational field.
You said there's lights in the sky?
The internet has become the command center for criminals and terrorists.
911, what's your emergency? I need help, please help me!
Aliens won't let it happen. You know, that's what we're instructed to say.
Roswell, Area 51. Alien kept deep under the ground.
1, 0, 1, 1, 1, 0, 1, 1, 6, 3, 2, 9, 7.
Media doesn't have your best interest in mind. The government is self-serving. You're here for a reason. You're listening to Troubled Minds Radio. Broadcasting live from a secret bunker just off the extraterrestrial highway. Somewhere in the desert sands outside of Las Vegas. From somewhere in space-time, loosely labeled Generation X on planet Earth. And asking questions of you in earnest into the digital darkness. Good evening and welcome to Troubled Minds Radio. I'm your host, Michael Strange, and hello to all of you who may also have troubled minds. What's going on, guys? It is Monday night, which is one of the nights we get together and talk about all the things we're not allowed to talk about. We do it Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday at 7 p.m. Pacific. What are those things, you may wonder? Aliens, conspiracy, the paranormal, the government, academia, the 24-hour news cycle, propaganda, and the general feeling that we live in the upside down. Got another doozy for you tonight. Have you ever heard of the Hat Man? Shadow people. Yeah. There's some interesting things about the Hat Man. In particular, it's very sort of newer-ish, or is it? Many, let's say, sources on the interwebs suggest that the Hat Man is a modern creation, is something very much like Slender Man, something to this effect, wherein it was written about, and then suddenly people started seeing it. And the bizarre part about it specifically is that we talk about this in terms of manifesting things, okay? Manifesting futures, manifesting realities, trying to continue to basically judge our own reality on a day-by-day or minute-by-minute basis. But in this sense, we're, again, manifesting bad guys through fiction, through stories, through this collective consciousness bit, through the zeitgeist. And, this Hat Man supposedly has been entering people's dreams, very Freddy Krueger-esque. So we're going to talk about that tonight. Not just that, but we got some dark matter, interesting news that just hit, and a lot of really good things going on in terms of the science. I love the science, like I always say. I think our job is to look beyond it and just take some shots at what may come, what actually science may actually determine. Maybe not even in our lifetime. We're probably punching way above our weight, but I kind of don't care, because that's the type of stuff wherein we need to dream a little bit too. And in this case, let's hope the dream tonight doesn't include Hat Man entering your dreams. As usual, we're doing this to include you, and I'd love for you to be part of the conversation, because that's all this is. It's not, as I always say, there's no truth to be found here. It's just conversations. and that's what's on my mind tonight as we begin. Reading your chat in all the places, trying to incorporate your thoughts and ideas into the show tonight, and of course that means that we are the most interactive radio show in the known multiverse, and it means that we're streaming in all the places you would expect. That would be YouTube, Rockfin, Rumble, Twitter, and Twitch, and of course we're broadcasting live on the Troubled Minds Radio Network. That's KUAP Digital Broadcasting, digital radio, a nice low bandwidth option for the individuals that are at work or on the road or something, got low kind of lower data plans. It's perfect. If you guys haven't checked it out yet, lots of amazing things happening there. We got new shows. Matt, welcome Temple of the Owl. Matt in California has put a new show up, but of course we do have all the older shows, and I say older because it's weeks or months now because it's brand new. But we of course on the Troubled Minds Radio Network, we've also got that's James Salcedo. You know him, you love him. The Salcedo Paranormal. We've got Serena of Paranormal and Proud. We got Jennifer over there with the Arcane Observer, and Matt Sal now. And I'm telling you, there's a lot of good things happening and more shows coming. So like I said, this is the idea. It's building our own thing, is getting together and just talking about this stuff. And if you're interested in putting a show together, like I said, it doesn't have to be a massive commitment of time or whatever. It could be, maybe one show a week type of thing. That would be cool. Whatever you want to do, just let me know. I'm open to all those ideas. The only thing is you just got to do it. That's the thing. Like Matt Sal is a perfect example of that, by the way, because he like a week before his show launched, he sent me a message and said, Mike, I'm thinking about doing this. What do you think? And I said, yeah, absolutely. That seems great. I'd love it. And then like a week later, he has not only his initial trailer, and then he has his first episode out. I'm like, damn, that was fast. And it's what it's about. It's about production. It's about nose to the grindstone. These conversations don't happen accidentally. They happen because interested parties are there, sort of spurring the conversation. So thank you to all the amazing people that have been part of it. The Exiled Minds podcast, the Mighty Rohan, I'd leave him out. Yeah, just so many great things happening in our radio world that we're creating here. So just an FYI, go please listen, troubledminds.org, and you can find the links on top. It says listen live here. All right, so with that, look, here's what we're going to do. Let's just go straight to it, straight to the news, because this I thought was pretty wild. Going to read straight from the article a little bit here. Actually, no, I'll just read you the headline. So this is from sci-fi.com, SYFY, and a galaxy without dark matter presents head-scratching cosmic anomaly. Ah, yes, dark matter. We love the dark matter because there's a lot of ways you can look at the dark matter in terms of just a gravity signature of something we don't understand, or it's supposed to be, I don't know, let's say one of the catalysts for the expansion of the universe, or I don't know. There's so many theories because we can't really directly observe it, okay? And that's the weird part about it. But the other thing that always comes to mind when I think of dark matter or dark energy, how any and all of this stuff comes together, it does make me think in terms of like a shadow biome, and maybe the possibility of maybe a I don't know, something to the effect of a dimensional leak over to some degree. And maybe that's why we're seeing shadow people and things like this. In any case, let me read this. It's pretty cool. Astronomers have observed a galaxy called NGC 1277 that appears to have no dark matter, a mysterious substance that makes up a significant portion of the universe. Dark matter was first proposed by Fritz Zwicky in 1933 to explain the gravitational forces in galactic clusters. However, NGC 1277 seems to have very little or no dark matter, which goes against the expectations based on the standard model. The galaxy is categorized as a relic galaxy, meaning it has had no recent interactions with other galaxies, making it a valuable source of information about the early universe. The lack of dark matter could be due to gravitational interactions within the galaxy or a result of past mergers. Further observations are planned to investigate this phenomenon. And that's straight from, like I said, it's pretty cool that you can just get AI to completely sum up the thing for you in a nice little blurb. I use this plugin. I'm not pimping it. I'm not selling it. I just use it, and it's an amazing tool to be able to to just cut to the chase on some of this stuff, and skip the artistic writings, musings of individuals that sometimes is a little long-winded. And hey, I'm a long-winded myself, but sometimes we were short on time. But it's called Wise One is the plugin, and it's pretty cool. You just click summarize, and you get like 3 bullet points, and then a summarization of the article, and that's that. So anyway, it got me thinking in terms of so not just this cosmic, let's say, the galaxy that has no dark matter. It got me thinking in terms of what dark matter is, and how come some galaxies have this, and this one is an anomaly that does not. We cannot detect it. Of course, we can't see it. It's outside of the visible spectrum of anything observable, in not just the observable let's say light spectrum of humans, but also we can't see it with infrared or any of this business, radio telescopes. And so that's the bizarre thing about it. But it gets even more weird when you start thinking about sort of these shadow biomes and what this may mean. And I got a lot of theories, of course, because that's what I do. I bring the theories and talk about all the weird stuff. But I do have some questions for you, because we're going to get to the Hat Man tonight as well as part of this discussion. We've never talked about him directly. We've had some people call in the past and maybe bring up the Hat Man. But I'm going to mix a couple ideas here in terms of this particular galaxy that is, again, seemingly very, very peculiar in terms of no dark matter. The second part is we're going to talk about this shadow biome and shadow people and this Hat Man phenomenon, which is a little bit strange to me. But here's the thing. Got some questions for you. Number one, is there... what do you know about shadow people? That's the very first question. You think there's a shadow biome here on Earth or elsewhere, let's say in these other galaxies? Because, of course, we get to speculate freely because we're under no scientific jurisdiction, and we just get to dream in tandem and wonder about the world we live in. So do you think that this dark matter does represent something? Maybe some sort of universal consciousness, or is it maybe the dream world that we're seeing? Maybe astral travelers? Is it any of this? Okay. So what do you know about like a shadow biome, let's say shadow people, and of course this Hat Man? And like I said, when we talk about manifesting these sorts of things and these ideas, it's a little bit strange that this Hat Man keeps popping up in really modern culture. And like I said, it's seems to be more new than some of these other things. But what does it mean? I don't know. And that's what I want to know. So what do you know about the shadow people? What do you think about the shadow biome? What about this galaxy that has no dark matter at all? Seems incredibly strange to me. And then what's happening in that case where our galaxy has detectable dark matter? That galaxy way out there has no detectable dark matter. Is there something cosmic at play? And then what do you know about the Hat Man? Have you ever seen this individual? I'm going to read a little bit about this, but there's the questions to get us going. There's a lot of stuff here. And as usual, we're going to take it all kinds of different ways, nonlinear, open-ended. Love to hear your thoughts. Straight from, this is cryptids.fandom.com. The Hat Man is a figure in urban legends, more related to sleep paralysis, which of course is the alien abduction phenomenon they say as well. The Hat Man is a phenomenon in which witnesses report seeing a shadowy entity dressed in an old top hat on some occasions, and on others with a fedora type hat, like the typical detective hat, and sometimes a layer. The Hat Man acts like a ghost and is almost always seen just standing there. This form can simply fade until the witness no longer sees it and has no apparent reaction to people. For example, many have reported bumping into this entity, which does absolutely nothing for seconds or minutes, then moves around a bit and just vanishes as if it couldn't see who bumped into it. This type of entity sometimes appears as a ghost to those who study the phenomenon. It looks like a ghost and with the shadow of a person wearing an old style hat. Unlike a ghost who might have visible facial features, the Hat Man is a shadow in the dark in its entirety with no details. Only the shadow. However, it is not always reported to be harmless. The Hat Man has sometimes been mentioned as a distinct entity, and many times witnesses report that they feel utter terror upon seeing it. Many people have reported that this entity feeds on their terror and does not vanish. He simply walks away as any normal person would. The shadow has substance, that is, as some people have touched it, and many paranormal researchers believe that this entity should be studied. As a curiosity, this phenomenon is only reported with the Hat Man in the top hat. that. And again, there's some artist renderings here, some interesting things about this, but it seems strange to me that this idea of maybe dark energy being linked to the shadow biome, and not just, let's say, here, but also cosmically. And what's happening in a space where there is no, let's say in this galaxy, again, all the way back to the original article here. Let's say in this galaxy, there's, NGC 1277. Let's say that there's life there, okay? And let's say it's human-esque. Let's say it's, the Klingons or something live there, right? Or the Romulans. We'll go full Star Trek for a sec, just as as an example. If this is the case, and something like this is as it should be, well, let's say just a parallel to life on Earth, and let's say there's no dark matter around. Do you think that it's possible that it's like a dream web, or like it's described, some sort of consciousness, or let's say it's like maybe a cosmic tidal wave of emotion, this type of thing, that can be actually measured in terms of maybe density of ideas or thoughts or dreams, or maybe all this mixed together. You know how we've always talked about downloads and where they come from and this type of thing. It gets even more strange when you start to consider that possibly ideas have some sort of substance, and maybe some sort of cosmic substance in this instance. And so it makes me wonder if you have and we're way out on a very thin limb at this point, but that's okay by me. Like I said, it's more philosophy than anything else here, and wild ideas. And so the question for me becomes, when I start thinking about this further, is there in this particular galaxy NGC 1277, is there possibly no ideas in the air? Is it possible there's no dream realm there? Is it possible that it's somehow cut off from the rest of the universal consciousness, whatever that means, because there's no dark matter sort of attaching it, very, very much like Indra's web or something like that might be. So I don't know. As usual, no truth for me, just ideas. If you're here for truth, you're definitely in the wrong place. But if you're here for a good conversation about wild stuff, then you're definitely in the right place. So I'd love to hear your thoughts. I already read the questions. What do you know about this stuff? The shadow biome? What about shadow people? Have you ever encountered these? What are your theory? Do you think it actually has anything to do with this dark matter or dark energy for that matter? See what I did there? And then, of course, what do you know about the Hat Man? And how does all this work? I'd love to hear your thoughts. 702-957-1037. So straight from the right up here, going to read a little bit of this and get us in the right mindset, and then we'll roll. Astronomers have discovered a galaxy. I just read this, actually, so I'm not going to read it again. Further observations are planned to solve this mystery, it ends. Suppose we consider that dark matter might not be just an inert physical substance, but instead a realm of shadow people, entities from a higher dimension that exist parallel to ours. If that were the case, the missing dark matter in NGC 1277 might not indicate an absence, but rather a transformation. It could be that the shadow people, like our enigmatic Hat Man, have interacted with the dark matter in such a way as to alter its state, rendering it undetectable to our current instruments. Talking about the dark matter, of course. Some fringe theorists, now we're talking, have proposed a connection between sightings of supernatural shadowy figures like the Hat Man and shadow people and the mysterious dark matter that is believed to make up over 80% of the matter in the universe. While dark matter has not been directly observed yet, its existence is inferred from its gravitational effects on galaxies and other visible matter, like we just said. Some speculate that dark matter could be made up of unknown subatomic particles that do not interact via electromagnetic forces, making them invisible to our current instruments. In this view, apparitions like the Hat Man and shadows are theorized to be ephemeral manifestations of dark matter particles as they sporadically interact with the visible world. Now we're talking. Now we're cooking with gas. Or perhaps the shadow Hat Man, an entity frequently reported in the corners of our vision or in the realm of dreams, is a manifestation of this dark matter, an entity born from the cosmic echo of all actions and thoughts made visible in our reality. If this is the case, NGC 1277, which is this galaxy that's devoid of dark matter, could be a place where such echoes are sparse, where the veil between realities is thin enough to allow these shadow figures to slip through. And like I said, you can look at this a whole bunch of different ways because it's fascinating as hell. Let's mark my spot there. And yeah, pretty wild stuff. I do love the idea that, you know, maybe these types of things are being manifested by us, by individuals that, you know, are maybe dreaming up these things in terms of, you know, fiction, you know, like Slender Man, things like this. Or as usual, we can sort of go the Ouija board effect and wonder if there's more to this in terms of, let's say, if you, let's see, what's a good example here? If we're basically manifesting something in terms of this Hat Man or whatever we want to call this thing, is there like ancient entities that are maybe using that, let's say, tulpa or that avatar that we've created to sort of inhabit it, sort of like a cosmic walk-in, if you know what I mean. And so they're like, okay, we're waiting, you know, we're a cosmic ancient entity. We're waiting for a vessel. And then here on Earth, somebody creates like the Slender Man, or they'll create the idea of the Hat Man. And like I said, I don't know if it's new. If this is not new, please correct me. But if it is sort of like a fan fiction sort of deal, then maybe we're sort of Ouija boarding an avatar here, and something else is getting into it and representing itself as whatever we expect to see. And you know, that goes back to the Loki, the nature spirits, and the tricksters, and all the rest of this, the Fae. I mean, there's a lot of ways to look at this per usual, and so that's what we're doing tonight, just hanging out, doing the thing. A few different ways to look at this, and that's why I love it. And of course, in terms of the actual, let's say, Shadow Man, Hat Man himself, what do you think this thing's about? Again, many people have, you know, science, of course, says this is just sleep paralysis. This is just us seeing things out of the corners of our eye. This is just, you know, there's nothing paranormal to see here, and that's okay. That's okay with me too. Like I said, I'm open to all the ideas, and just because we lean woo, it's because it's more fascinating to consider the possibilities here. Because if you just say science has no proof of any of this, Mike, be like, yeah, I mean, yeah, for the most part, right? I mean, so I don't know. As usual, believe what you want to believe. There's no truth to be had here, but there's a lot of questions, a lot of amazing things. Back to this real quick. So here, so the idea of dark matter being more than just a physical substance is a profound concept to ponder. Instead of envisioning dark matter as a cold, inert, and intangible substance, we might consider it a form of latent consciousness, a cosmic mind waiting to awaken. This perspective adds a layer of depth to our understanding of the universe, casting it not merely as a vast physical expanse, but as an entity teeming with potential awareness. In this scenario, this galaxy NGC 1277, that's devoid of dark matter, becomes a focus of intense curiosity. It might be a place where this latent consciousness has emerged from its dormant state, transforming the dark matter into something else entirely. This awakened consciousness could be a form of energy or matter that we haven't yet developed the means to detect or understand, leading us to erroneously perceive NGC 1277 as lacking dark matter. And it brings up another great point there in terms of, let's say, how the universe evolves. Is this a possibility in terms of, let's say, like I said, calling an idea in the air? Is it in the air because it's stuck in this web of dark matter waiting for one of us to kind of run into it? Or, you know, that type of thing. I don't know. It is fascinating to consider the shadow biome and how all this fits or does not fit, because, like I said, it could be one way, it could be the other, and it's all fine by me. I see you guys in the chat. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for being part of this and being interested in these conversations. But the Hat Man seems a little creepy, right? I've never had an instance with shadow people, like I said, maybe once or twice in my life. One's a little more creepy, and it may have been the neighbor coming into the house at night. So, but that's the type of thing, right? Like, you don't really know what's happening if, you know, the light, you don't know what happens when the lights go out, type of thing. So I don't really know. Like, I can tell you that story a little bit later if you're interested. I think I've told it before on this show, and it's a little bit spooky, but I'm not sure it was actually a shadow person. It seems like maybe. It seems like also maybe not. And so it's possible that somebody came into the house late at night and just scared the crap out of me. But that's all legit. And so I want to hear your stories. What do you know about shadow people? Have you ever seen them? And do you think it is related to the sleep paralysis business, like we're always told regarding the alien abduction phenomena? Because that in particular to me is fascinating in a lot of different ways, because some people swear that they've been on an alien spaceship. Okay. Again, all the rest of the stuff. And I'm not saying those people people haven't. I'm saying I think it's fascinating to hear from experiencers that have actually been part of these things and can, sort of refute the idea of sleep paralysis as the scientific explanation for all of these things. So I don't know. That's the deal. That's what's on my mind tonight. We're talking dark matter. We're talking this cosmic hat man. We're talking how all these ideas fit together. And of course, the avatar of the universal mind. And what I mean by that is, well, are we manifesting these things? Are we creating these things? Or are these things already out there and we're sort of drawing them in and beckoning their existence and asking for them to show up, very much Stephen Greer style? You think that's going down? I have no idea. Love to hear your thoughts. 702-957-1037. That's 702-957-1037. This is Troubled Minds. I'm Michael Strange. We got James, we got Matthew, we got Joe in Florida, and we got your calls as well. When we return, don't go anywhere. More the Cosmic Hat Man, avatar of the universal mind, and your calls when we return. Be right back. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to Troubled Minds. I'm your host, Michael Strange. We're streaming on YouTube, Rockfin, Rumble, Twitter, and Twitch. We are broadcasting live on the Troubled Minds Radio Network. That's KUAP Digital Broadcasting. Tonight, we're taking your calls as we discuss lots of things. The shadow biome. We're talking shadow people. We're talking about this galaxy out there called NGC 1277 that has no detectable dark matter whatsoever. Now, what does that mean? What is dark matter, let's say, in the galactic sense? But you think there's something more to this? And is it relevant or maybe irrelevant that there's no dark matter detected in this galaxy? Because it does get me thinking in terms of galactic evolution, shadow biomes, shadow people, and of course, we're going to talk about the Hat Man as well. What do you guys know about this? Love to hear your thoughts. 702-957-1037. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. We'll put you on the show just like this. Let's go to James in Michigan. What's my man? The official paranormal expert of Troubled Minds, Salcedo Paranormal. How are you, my man? Go right ahead.
I'm okay. Can you hear me?
Doing well. Just hanging out, talking about weird stuff. I'm sure you know a thing or two about the Hat Man.
Yeah. So you hear me okay?
Yep, loud and clear.
Okay. Yeah. So first of all, this Hat Man, and the thing about the shadow figures is that there seem to be all different kinds of shapes and sizes of them. Hat Man is probably one of the most well known, but I've heard stories of shadow cats, shadow dogs, shadow spiders, just blobs of shadow that change shape. And that has me thinking of your idea of sort of ideas, of them maybe being ideas or that kind of thing. Sort of this consciousness, but of a different kind, maybe. And I'm wondering about that one galaxy. Maybe all of that shadow or that dark matter or dark energy is not visible because it is currently in the process of merging with everything else in all those planets. I wonder if maybe that is what is necessary in some cases to start forming intelligent life. And it's not visible there right now because it's still in the early stages of doing that. It could even be cycles of that where, maybe it did that basically when the universe started and that galaxy went through its natural course and now it's starting again. And maybe that's why we're not seeing it now, because it's sort of starting a process all over again. And maybe eventually any other species there, aliens, so to speak, maybe they would have their own stories of seeing shadow figures that look similar to them.
Yeah. I love how all of that does fit together. And I think the weird part here regarding all of it is what the hell's happening out there? I mean, to me, I really love the idea that it's sort of like a dream net or that consciousness like you're describing, something like that, and maybe we can detect it as information, not see it, but detect, let's say, the gravity well of information itself. And let's say maybe let's throw another bone out there for ideas, and consider that maybe there's no life there. As you know, many of us have probably speculated, being a troubled mind and all, it's been said that the universe is teeming with life. What if this, for some bizarre reason, some, let's say, galactic cataclysmic thing in the way back of this galaxy maybe stunted the growth of life? And so maybe there is no information there. Maybe it's entirely devoid of ideas and dreams and entities. And so we can't detect it as part of that sort of cosmic web. You know what I mean? I don't know. Lots of ways to look at it, lots of ways to consider it. But you may be onto something. I may be onto something. Maybe there's nothing to be onto at all. Maybe this is just us misunderstanding entirely what this stuff means. But yeah, fantastic stuff already. What else you got?
Yeah, it could go either way. Also, it seems like with so much of the paranormal, whatever is out there, time is not the same for whether it's spirits or aliens or other dimensional entities, maybe even for shadow figures. We don't know that for sure, but if we take the idea of them somehow being able to move outside of time, then maybe it is more of a cycle. Maybe different species have to develop to a point where they can have these different ideas or create them, and then these ideas go back in time and sort of implant themselves in there as well. Maybe it's sort of a kind of a symbiosis of the thought and then physical matter throughout the course of all of time.
Yeah, definitely. As usual, I love the theories and the shadow biome too. I think, how does that fit? So let's say our galaxy is sort of teeming with this dark matter that we can detect, and this one is not. What would be the stark difference? And I think that becomes the question here. Does it mean that a shadow biome is only, let's say, able to be in a particular area or space or space-time? Maybe it has something to do with time itself. Maybe it's like in stasis. Maybe this place is frozen in time. I mean, all those theories that I'm talking about are in the write-up down in the links in the description if you want to brainstorm a bunch of stuff here with me, because I've already done all that. But yeah, I mean, a lot of ways to look at this, a lot of wild things. That you think it is related, though. So both dark energy, dark matter, you think it is related to that shadow biosphere and shadow people?
I think possibly, especially, again, if you take all the stories of beyond just the shadow person form, it seems like there's all different shapes, and that sort of mirrors what we have in the physical world, in a way. We have all kinds of creatures, giant to tiny to who knows. And if you think of, I wonder even about this, shadows out of the corner of your eye, where it's just one, you barely see anything, and it almost could be sort of, maybe you're only seeing atoms, just clusters of atoms. There's even cases of a shadow mist or fog I've heard of. And what could a fog or mist look like? It could almost look like a galaxy or a cloud. And what do some galaxies look like? They almost look like clouds.
That's a fact. I even got one kind of floating here. There's this weird blue cloud on the blurb today on the little thumbnail. So I mean, yeah, this tracks. I think it tracks in a lot of ways. But as usual, we're gonna have to determine what the hell it actually means in terms of dark matter and the rest. But yeah, hot stuff. We got calls behind you. We got to cut. What's your final thought here? Is this one of those things you think is worthy of discussion, or you think, let's wait and see what the science tells us?
I'm always interested in the discussion. So, but yeah, and I think I'll stick around just in case there's time for later as well.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. You stay right there. That's James Salcido of Salcido Paranormal. He's a very good friend of mine, and he's the paranormal expert at Troubled Minds. He's got his own show called Salcido Paranormal. Search it, SALSIDO, just like it sounds. Or, of course, you can find him right here on Troubled Minds, the radio network, KUAP Digital Broadcasting, and go find his podcast and give him some downloads and listen. And he does all kinds of things, paranormal stories from the web, book reviews, and, of course, all manner of things paranormal. And he's delving getting into some mythological happenstances as well. So go check that out. And again, link's going to be in the description, troubleminds.org/friends. And click follow James here. You're the best, brother. Talk to you a little bit later. Let's go to, I think we got Matthew as first. Hang tight, Joe. I see you on the phone. Matthew in Colorado, you're on Troubled Minds. What's happening, my friend? How are you? And go right ahead.
Well, I'm doing very well, sir. I think that, about a year ago, we had a show on dark matter and dark energy, and I brought up that, I think those terms might be a bit of a scientific placeholder, just being like, we don't know what's going on. Our equations for gravity don't add up, and so we're just going to create a term and say, oh, there's dark matter, and whatever doesn't add up in our equations, well, that's just dark matter. And, similar with dark energy, but, back in the day, 100 years ago, they just called that the ether. And this was, the ether, the etheric energy, the non-visible energy. Maybe it's something like fourth dimensional energy or fifth dimensional energy. And so I think that plays when you look at perhaps there's just a bit of reality that we don't understand, is not visible to us. And, you can tie that into, the quantum physics and the multi-dimensions, whether it's 11 dimensions or whatever, and just say that there's a lot more out there going on than we realize. And I think that within that space, that ether, biosphere, dark matter, dark energy, doesn't matter what words we give it, that perhaps there are entities, perhaps there is consciousness. Certainly with either of those, you're going to have energy, and that exists and is real, and we have interactions with it, like the Hat Man, or things that we encounter in the astral realms, or cryptids, or maybe even UFO stuff. I know James has told a story where he wasn't quite clear whether he had an alien abduction that happened in real life or whether it happened like in a dream space sort of thing. And I had one of those happen to me as well. And in mine, I know I'm like 95% sure it didn't physically happen, but it happened in this other realm. But it was almost verbatim what people describe with a UFO abduction. Like, I'm on the table, there's this guy doing stuff to me. And so there might be something like a place or a space where there are these energies, there are these beings, there is this dark matter, dark energy biosphere where there's things going on. And in terms of shadow people and stuff, there's, I've mentioned a number of times the ancient Toltec tradition that goes back thousands of years, and they talk about the mud shadows and these beings, and in pretty much you would just call them shadow beings. And I did have an experience only one time in my life where I was driving to a friend's house and I saw one of these things on the side of the road, and it was probably 12 to 14 feet high. And it what James said really was reminiscent of what I saw. It was just kind of like a dark gray shadow mist. It was kind of oblong, but it didn't look like a human. It didn't look like a person, but it was totally distinct. It was something that was abnormal. And I was driving down the road. It was on the right-hand side of the road, so it was out of my peripheral vision, which a lot of times gets mentioned. We see these things sometimes out of our peripheral vision, So I think there's room to consider that there's a lot more going on to reality than, the four known forces of physics, which are the weak atomic force, the strong atomic force, the force of gravity, and the electromagnetic. And there's something else going on, whether it's, the dark matter that has this different gravitational force, or dark energy that's this type of energy we haven't discovered yet. I think there's more things going on there.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess the question is, as always, like, how maybe juice do you want to get with it? Because a lot of ways to look at it. I mean, we've talked about a shadow biome here on Earth, and there's got to be some way to, eventually through technology detect these things and detect these entities, or maybe these places wherein or whereby this dark matter, dark energy, whatever you want to call it. Again, two different things I realize, but are sort of seeping through, or maybe even being these portals to these other things, other places. But maybe not even that. Maybe you can't cross. Maybe it's sort of a window. You know what I mean? It's sort of, and where this energy sort of coalesces in a cloud, like James was saying, something to this effect. Maybe we can see through it, and they can see through it as well. And to them, we've said this before in the past, maybe we're the shadow people. It's scaring the crap out of them. Ha, boo.
Yeah, I actually hold out hope that there will be some type of scientific instruments or ways to detect these type of things that will be invented in the future. I think that's possible, and I think that there's so many experiences that people have that just rely, on their consciousness, whether it's dreaming or different practices, or whether it's hallucinogens or etc., that tap into these other levels of reality. That I think that there's also the potential that those can be scientifically studied and proven. And that's gone back to the 70s and Stanford and research into PSI stuff and psychic stuff and the 5 cards and altering random number generators, and we do have a lot of proof and evidence of that stuff. But where is that stuff coming from? And I think it is coming from that sort of unseen realm. Whatever it is, whatever words you want to ascribe and use to describe it, I think it's a real legit thing. And I've certainly myself had hundreds of those experiences, and certainly the world over, we've got hundreds of thousands of pieces of anecdotal evidence giving credence to that, I'm going to say, level of imperceptible reality, right?
Definitely. The law of fantasia, through the veil, whatever you want to call it. We're going to get to Joe. If you want to hang tight and hang around, you're welcome to. But I want to make sure we get to all of you guys. All of you called in super early and been waiting a long time. So hang tight. If you got more, we'll go back to you. We got Jen and David and James and all kinds of people. We'll just kick it around a lot if you want to hang tight. But gonna let you go for the time being. You're the best, Matthew in Colorado. Give him a check out. His books down below, troubledminds.org/friends. It says Matthew's books here. Appreciate the call. Great ideas as usual, and we'll talk to you soon, brother.
All right, you're the best. Have a good night.
You too, my friend. Let's go to Joe in Florida. Thanks for being patient, guys. You're on Troubled Minds. How are you? And go right ahead.
Okay, I'll try to ramble through this. First off, shadow people. Yes, I believe it. First time I've heard of the Hat Man. I work with a guy in a crematory. He told me he would see the Hat Man in his house, and the minute he saw it when he was little and lived in Chicago, he took that as a signal of he had to get out. So he moved out, joined the military, did something with his life, and that's about it. But we used to talk about a lot of this stuff. Now, as far as the house that I'm in now, my mom has seen something, and I've seen something twice. The one time I saw it, over by the window, my hair stood on end, and I thought it was, genuine. When your hair, that sixth sense, stands on end. Energy, things like that. I've had times of great emotion. I had it this weekend. I had a story that happened this weekend. So in my mind, I was like, he's going to do a show on this. I had something that happened last night, but before I get to that, there was another time during the day that I thought I saw something out by the front door, out of the corner of my eye, but I do suffer from floaters. So I tried to recreate it, and I was fatigued and tired, and sometimes I'll get floaters in my eyes, and sure as heck, different time of the day, so I was sitting on the other side of the house, turn my head, rub my eyes, get a little floater, I'm paying attention, and to me it was recreated, and my hair wasn't standing on end. Now, as far as negative energy, dark matter, if they say it exists, I guess it does. Negativity, yin and yang, and I think it can manifest itself anywhere. Why do I say that? I'm typically probably a negative person. I've been a lot more positive since my job has changed. You all know. But this past weekend, I had a big event coming up that I did not want to celebrate or be reminded of. And I was very, very adamant and angry about it. And sure as heck, the closer as I get to that day, I end up being sick. So I believe in my mind, I made myself sick. The only one sick in the house. Leave for the weekend and rip the bumper off my car on a parking thing. So now I'm fuming, sick, supposed to be out with my wife for a nice dinner, an expensive dinner, and a nice dinner. Tear the front bumper off the car, get an Uber, go to dinner. I'm at dinner, and I feel like my head's in a fishbowl. I wanted to scream, holding all that emotion in. Okay? Keeping all the emotion in. So fast forward through more details of negativity. Yesterday evening, I had been working on the bumper of that car all day in the Florida heat. No shade, no nothing. From 3 in the afternoon till about 10:30 at night. Anxious, full of anxious energy all day. And I get my son. I think I got the bumper lined up. As soon as he comes outside, it just starts to pour rain. Right on our block. And that happens in Florida. But I'm saying to myself, watch it lightning. And what happens? Not one, but 3 lightning bolts right around the block. The kid goes inside. I started hearing a voice. Couldn't tell. So I come inside. I tell my daughter, hey, let's go out and look at the storm. So we go back outside. She hears it. We both hear it. She says it was saying Frank. But it was, you hear Frank. And she looks at me. She's 12.
That's creepy.
And it was monotone. It was totally, she says, it would be like, hey, Mike, there's a storm. Hey, Mike, you out there? Hey, it's raining. Come in. Something. It was just monotone. Okay, I couldn't tell if it was it a female or a male? Can you even tell?
It sounded female, but it did sound frantic.
She says it sounded female, but it didn't sound frantic.
Okay, got out.
Like somebody had got out or somebody was missing. It was just monotone. She gets creeped out. And I'm like, she goes, Skinwalker. I go, give me a break. It's Florida. Maybe the skunk ate, right?
the Skinwalker in Florida.
She goes, you believe in, she goes, you believe in UFOs. She goes, I can believe in that, because she's a kid. So, Slender Man, all that stuff. So here was the weird thing. She goes in, and I hear it 2 more times, but the last time it kind of trails off. So I bent down to pick up the tools and get them in from the rain. And Mike, I heard like a shuffle. I felt something staring at me. and the back of my hair, the back of my neck, the hair in the back of my neck just stood up. Like there was something sitting right there at the end of the street, at the end of the driveway, just staring at me. And I quietly just got up, turned around, walked inside, locked the door. Curiously, the lightning had stopped, and the rain had stopped a few minutes later, and that was it. My daughter was creeped out. I was a little creeped out. I was hoping you would do a show, and you're doing the show today, but I totally believe that was my own negative reflection, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, sort of that the counterpoint of the shadow realm, whatever that means. Like we talk about sort of internally the young archetype situation with our subconscious, but what if that exists outside of us? And maybe you found yours that day. Yeah, wild story, man. We got about 30-40 seconds left. What else you got?
It's tough for me to say as a funeral director, but try to be more positive. Do as I say. Don't do as I do. And that's it. I haven't seen any shadow people in the bedroom or anything, but when you go to sleep at night, just try to have a good positive thought. And when you wake up in the morning, try to do that. I know it's difficult when we read news articles, and I feel like we're all dead people already walking when I read all the environmental stuff. But have a good week.
You too. I appreciate the call. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being you. And you have a good week as well. Appreciate it, bro. Joe in Florida. You know him, you love him. Hey, look, this is part of that invisible process I'm always talking about in terms of, funeral directors. And this is a processing situation with people that are no longer living. And shout out to all the funeral directors out there doing really difficult work. Appreciate the story, Joe. What do you guys know about the cosmic hat man? This avatar of the universal mind, I'm calling it. This galaxy way out there has no dark matter, no detectable dark matter, but it got me thinking in terms of these shadow biospheres. And how does this fit? Do you think it has anything to do with not just shadow people, but the hat man and anything else? Love to hear your thoughts, of course. 702-957-1037. That's 702-957-1037. This is Troubled Minds. I'm Michael Strange. Don't go anymore after the break. We got Jennifer and David on the road, and your call as well. Be right back. We are talking about the alien abduction phenomenon. Aliens.
The aliens are looking through your eyes and they're accessing your optic nerve. I'm doing fantastic. And through that optic nerve, they're transferring to your brain. People are random images as they traverse neurons in the brain.
All right, so maybe,
and they also feel them planting or receiving memories or ideas or images.
Broadcasting live from a secret bunker just off the extraterrestrial highway. Somewhere in the desert sands outside of Las Vegas. From somewhere in space-time, loosely labeled Generation X on planet Earth. And asking questions of you in earnest into the digital darkness.
Good evening and welcome to Troubled Minds Radio. I'm your host, Michael Strange, and we're streaming on YouTube, Rockfin, Rumble, Twitter, and Twitch. We are broadcasting live on the Troubled Minds Radio Network. That's KUAP Digital Broadcasting. Tonight we're taking your calls as we talk about a number of things. They found this galaxy way out there. It's called NGC 1277. And there's no discernible dark matter detected anywhere in the galaxy, which is odd because The current theory determines that if a galaxy is of a particular size or larger, there will be an accumulation of dark matter around it. Again, we don't know exactly what that means. We can't perceive directly what dark matter is. We can only, again, sense through gravitational pull and whatnot that it's even there. And there's a lot of theories about what it is. Now, of course, this is a paranormal alien podcast, so of course, I'm like, hey, what about the shadow biome? What about this cloud of darkness out there, which again leads to the veil or beyond the veil, or these ideas of maybe even an alternate reality leaking through, and we maybe perceive it as these clumps or clouds or areas of dark matter. Who knows? Is it part of some sort of universal consciousness? Is it some other thing at all, like maybe a weaving together of like the dream world or something to that effect? I really don't know, just theories and ideas, because that's what we do on this show. But I'd love to hear what you think. Per usual, what do you know about the Hat Man as part of this? The shadow biome, and of course, how all this fits together with shadow people, or does not, by the way. Like I said, if you're like, nah, I don't see anything here, Mike, that's cool. I'm totally fine with that too, because that's probably more likely the answer, but maybe it's not. And I think that's why we need to talk about it. Sipping the maybe juice, doing our thing. Let's do it. Let's go to Jen in Missouri. What's going on? How are you? The Arcane Observer. You're on Troubled Minds. Go right ahead. Actually, got some echo. Got to kill. 1 second. All right. Echo should be, come on. Yep, it's good. Go right ahead. Yeah, you're on Troubled Minds.
Okay. Can you hear me okay?
Loud and clear.
Yeah, so this is basically this whole topic in this arena about talking about these shadow figures or any of that is just such a big part of my whole the only reason I even began to think about any of these types of topics was because of experiences I had very early on that just kind of shaped my view of the world. Like whenever I was very, very little, we moved down. I was born in Texas, but we moved down to this house that was kind of near the Arkansas, Louisiana, Texas border, which is like Texarkana area. And there was this little house there, and this little town, and the house that they bought was supposedly a funeral home. I've talked to my mother about that, and she said it was a parlor house. So it's not like they did the actual mortuary work there at the house. At the turn of the century, they would host these basically funerals outside of a house that was kind of, more open floor plan, or just that house was used. That's what parlors were used for in the old Victorian homes too. It was for wakes, basically. And the house itself, in this instance, they bought when I was very little, about 4 years old, 3 to 4 years old. It was a parlor house, so people in that town would they would have their funerals in that house. And it was kind of because before that they had their funerals inside their own homes and their parlors and things like that usually. But we moved from that house due to a series of experiences. But I was so little, I don't recall much of that. But after that, when I was probably about 5 years old, we moved all the way back to the town we came from that house. And that's when it went on for years, like several years of my childhood, where I began to see. And I've, since accepted that I had to have been dreaming. But while it was happening, it was so realistic. And it wasn't a hat man. It was a cloaked figure, like a hooded figure. And it had the glowing eyes, the whole thing. And it was so prominent because it went on for years, like several years, of like till I was about, I don't know. It just went on and on and on, night after night, not necessarily night after night, but on the regular, where it was something that I became afraid to even go to sleep sometimes. It was so prominent. And it was always the same thing was the issue, was this figure. And it had like a hood of some, or at least no defined shoulders or anything like that. And it would be outside my window. And it did have glowing eyes, and it wouldn't do anything. It would just stand there. And it was terrifying. And like it would just be standing there, and I couldn't tell that I was asleep. And so I would scream, people would come into the room and they're like, "Oh, you were asleep." But I was almost certain that I was not. But now I've convinced myself that I was definitely had to have been asleep and dreaming. But that stopped and tapered off. But then since then, I've had many other like experiences like that. For example, like I had at one point I moved into a city, and I got my own apartment. and I had my dog and everything, and I had my apartment. It was really cool. And I had went to sleep, and something woke me up. Like, I just woke up. My dog was sitting up, and I got up, and I opened the door from my bedroom, walked through the kitchen and into my, like, the little dining room area, and stuff was all thrown all over the place. And my apartment had been broken into. The front door was open, and somebody had broken into my apartment. And they took my my video game console and like all kinds of other stuff out of my apartment. And I was really freaked out, and I was disoriented because I was, it was terrifying. And like the window was open, so they'd come through the window and then literally went out the front door and left the front door open. But when I came from the front door down the hallway back into like the little middle room area, it was like an old apartment. I basically the lights were on, which is really prominent here, but I almost like walked into, like, it was very abruptly standing there, this big shadow figure. And it was really, it was just as if you were almost going to walk into a person. Like, I actually stopped from there before, I made phone calls and everything else, but it also did not have, it was like standing in the room. So there was some type of connection there between the shock about my apartment having been broken into and also then seeing this figure there. Now, since then, even so, like the Hat Man itself, before I heard of the Hat Man, I had dreams wherein I saw this figure that had a hat on. It was like a broader brim hat than people typically describe when they're sort of talking about a fedora. I would have these like lucid dreams, because I had this lucid dream thing too, that's like where the dreams are very, like a lot of people, very realistic, very vivid. And in that instance, I would see this figure that did have a hat on, and it was like a big broad-brimmed hat, almost like a witch's hat or something, but it was like a rounded top almost, or like a Puritan hat sort of, I guess would be like a very broad-brimmed top hat, basically. And he was also this, in the dream, I basically walked out of my house. It was like a lucid dream, so it was all very realistic. I couldn't tell that I was dreaming at the time. And I walked into downtown of the city I was living in, and I went to this apartment where there were some friends of mine living, and the Hat Man was there at their gate into the courtyard of their apartments. And he was just standing there, and he wouldn't move. I had noticed him immediately that he looked really weird because he had this extremely odd, like very, very big hat on. Just a very broad-brimmed hat, but he wouldn't move. And I realized that nobody was seeing him, because they would have pointed at him out, just like I was noticing him. But he would just move his eyes around and watch people walking by. So it's almost like he was in some type of like, in the dream, perhaps like an interdimensional traveler of some kind or something. And he stood outside of that building the whole time. I could see him from the window. He was standing down there. And it was like he was like a sentinel of some type at that, anyway, in the dream, I began to think that these women I was talking to were dead, perhaps, or had passed away, but they were some type of limbo because they couldn't leave that area that they were in the dream. Those women, for some reason, could not leave this very small, finite space. They could only go from their apartment to like this place, this little building across the street. And it was like they just continuously were doing that, and they couldn't leave that area. So he was almost some type of like watchman or guardian of some kind, and he had this strange black big hat on. And then it makes me think that these beings are some type of species or something, or that they occupy some type of place. In fact, there have been people who have had abductions and things like that, and or people who have even worked in like where they think that they have encountered aliens or been involved in abduction stories, and they account for all kinds of strange things, wherein these beings will sometimes ask them, "Where is your hat?" Like, we'll ask, which is very strange, but that's been told in some accounts I have heard, where the hat, like these beings, these shadow beings, that they can that they communicate with the people telepathically in some way, or they actually do speak to them. But they'll ask us, like they'll ask the people, "Where is your hat?" Like it's
required. You know what's super creepy about that, real quick, Jen? Have you seen that movie? What is it? It's with Matt Damon. It's Philip K. Dick, Adjustment Bureau. they have like the Adjustment Bureau is like the time cops, and they have like these fedora type hats that they wear, and it is what allows them to move through time. And so at one point they steal like the hat, and they're able to, to sort of do some of this stuff. But, and I may be misremembering that. It's been at least 10 years since I've seen that movie, but there was some magical thing with the hat. Back to, there must have been some magic in the old silk hat they found. Go right ahead.
It's just kind of strange because that coming up about where is your hat, and then you think about how people have worn hats for very long. We just recently stopped wearing the required head covering hat. Like people used to wear hats all the time to signify where they were in society, like who they were essentially was defined by their hat, which I know it sounds very bizarre to a lot of people, but if you do a little research about the history of the hats, it's true. In fact, all the old priests too, even out of Babylonia, they would wear these bronze or sometimes copper like type of hats, the conical hats. And then with the wide brimmed hat and the classic witch's hat has had to do with a priesthood of a kind. There is a literal priesthood that has to do with, I think, perhaps, there's all kinds of theories, but that they would wear these hats to signify their position and what their caste, essentially, in a way, was. And that's where the cone hats and where the witches' hats and where those come from. And in fact, there was some author of a book a long time ago that was written about people living on the moon. And he described, and I'm talking about like probably the early 1900s, probably early 1900s. And his account was that, he believed perhaps that there were people occupying the moon or some type of beings occupying the moon. And they had some that had like wings. They were like a black skinned, like a bat, and even had wings, and they were a type of people. And there were also a type of people there in this book. And it was like written as a nonfiction, kind of, in a way at that time, people couldn't tell now if he was serious or not, because I cannot recall the book, but it was about people living on the moon. But in that instance, they also wore hats. These occupants of the moon wore these Puritan, like these, like the classic witch's hat. And they would wear these hats. And the moon, it's very strange too, because the moon has been tied into so much about, the grave and the gravity of the moon and having a significance with death in a way, or at least with the alternate reality of life and death, there being some type of correlation with the moon and ties to that. But I do think that these beings, they appear like a shadow, but that would make sense if they are some type of other dimensional being. Like if you look into the idea about the way that three-dimensional beings would see a fourth or fifth dimensional being, it would appear as a shadow. You would see the shadow of the thing before you actually saw the thing that was in that other dimension. So, because you wouldn't be able to comprehend it somehow, our brains wouldn't be able to see it. And what's very strange is I haven't seen any more of these shadow type beings or anything of the kind for like almost 2 years now. Just kind of stopped seeing it. And so I don't know if, whereas before that, what's strange about these shadow things too, one last thing, is that there does seem to be some type of levity about their presence. There's a feeling. It's not just that you see it. It's not just even the fear necessarily. There's actually like this strange weight, almost like they're affecting the environment by their presence. And it doesn't have to, oftentimes it is in the dark for most accounts, and in my accounts too, but it wasn't always in the dark. In that one case with my apartment, it was the lights were on. And that was completely unexpected when I almost walked. Like I turned the corner. It was a long hallway. And the apartment was probably built in the, 1920s or something like that. It was all wood and everything, and really cool apartment. But when I came down that hallway and turned that corner into that room, it had pocket doors. And when I came around that corner, I literally almost walked into it. And it felt like if I had I stopped and looked up at it. It was only a matter of seconds. Like literally count them seconds. But I thought there was somebody in my apartment. Now that could have been from the shock of having just noticed my apartment had been broken into and I was asleep through it, like in the back of the apartment. But it was terrifying. And that just kind of topped it off a little bit more. but it was just like it was solid. And I think it almost felt like if I had went forward, I would have bumped into it even. Like it didn't, even though it looked like a shadow, it wasn't, it was literally like it was there. Like it was, I don't know how to, it's not like a phantom or even necessarily like hallucination. It's like it's almost as if something it's there. Like people, it's you see it very clearly. It feels like. Now that's not always what other people account for. They see the out of the side view, and I think that's very likely too with the periphery views. But I wonder if these are some type of a literal species or entity that are working on some other dimension.
Yeah, that see us as the shadows. That could be very well. It's weird. So imagine, like, if we see them, like you said, they're watching. So, and in many cases, they don't actually move or even feel threatening. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't, depending on the case you read. But they're definitely watching, like some sort of a cosmic watcher, maybe kind of peeking through the veil. And maybe they're as perplexed as we are. They're standing there like mouth wide open, like, what am I seeing right now? I could imagine something like that for sure. I think maybe we lost Jen. Test 1, 2. Are you there? 702-957-1037. Appreciate the call. That's Jen in Missouri. You know her, you love her. She has a show called The Arcane Observer. Links in the description, troubledminds.org/friends. You can find her here on Troubled Minds Radio Network with us as well, KUAP Digital Broadcasting. Thank you for the phone call. Let's go to David on the road. Thanks for being patient, guys, and sharing the airwaves. I see you, MJ. We'll get to you at the bottom of the hour. David, you are on Troubled Minds. How are you, my friend? And go right ahead.
Doing good. I was listening to you guys. I was thinking about my experiences, and I made this correlation, which I never really thought about before, where I had seen a shadow being when I was about 7 years old, and as I walked away from this being, it got sucked up into this vortex and sucked it up and like through like a pinhole. And it vanished. And I recall an orb that woke me up in my room that looked like a ghostly orb. And I opened my eyes and saw it, and I startled by it, but I didn't move. And then it got sucked up into a vortex, into like a straw type of, like a pinhole. And then I remember the UFO I saw enter through seemed like a portal, and before it entered, it had a spiral, like a vortex cloud that it came through, and so I was kind of putting all these things together. I was thinking about it, and I'm thinking, maybe that's a way that they enter and exit through a type of a spiral, and I remember it kind of reminded me of the petroglyphs with the spirals and these humanoid pictures that were drawn on the pictographs. So it kind of reminded me of those things, and I wonder what James might think about that.
Yeah,
or
that's actually
else, for that matter.
Yeah, that's actually one of the inspirations last night. We were talking to the Night Stalker late into the night last night on Discord, and it was Shutout Rivers, and James was there, and we had Axel Steele, and we're just yucking it up. I stayed up way too late myself, but there's it was kind of in the periphery of sort of Night Stalker alluding to sort of drawing to the bottom of these caves types of things. So interesting that you bring it up without even hearing that conversation. Absolutely wild stuff. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it was part of what inspired this. I was like, okay, so cave drawings. They left him there for some reason. This is what Derek was saying last night. And again, I hate that he's not here. I'd love to have him kind of tell it, because you know how he does, how he's just amazing and tells it way better than I could anyway. Yeah. But it definitely kind of made me believe or think there was something to sort of this shadow stuff. But then that's called shadow work, right? But then I saw this article and I was like, wow, this ices it. This is what I'm going to do today show wise, because this is too good. But yeah, I don't know, James, you got a take on that, on what David was saying?
Yeah, and that does come up, spiral clouds or portals, and some do appear to be even shadows themselves. So, and that could be, I mean, why does a portal or have to be or a vortex have to be all light? If it's from this other, again, this shadow biome or this other dimension that appears as shadow, then it would appear maybe as shadow as well. Maybe that is what some of these mists and fogs and clouds are in a way as well. So yeah, that's a great thought there.
100%. Go right ahead, David.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was wondering, well, are they all from the same dimensional place, or are they from another, like, are they all from different places? And maybe that's just one way that they enter and exit. But yeah, just, things just going through my mind about this, and it was just interesting to think about. Anyway, I think that's all I have for you.
I appreciate it. As always, are you on the road? I don't think you're on the road. I don't hear the noise in the back. You are? You're driving?
Yeah, yep, I'm driving. I'm going to Soledad, California.
Nice. Like I said, better you than me. Tell California I said good riddance. Yep. Yeah, loud and clear. You're the best, bro. I appreciate the call. Be safe out there, right. And we'll talk to you soon. Have a great night.
Yep, you too. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. That's David on the road. You know him, you love him. Links in the description. A very talented guy, a guitar player, can do many other things. As you know, he's got some really bizarre stories too, in terms of like experiencing weird time slips and things like this. Or I don't know. Like I said, it's weird when we talk about sort of alien experiencers. There's also experiencers in these spaces wherein other things happen, where, shadow people and things like this. And what does it actually mean? I don't know. As usual, no answers, just more questions when I hear about this type of stuff. So yeah, there you go. James, anything else before we dip into the break? And we got MJ. I see there, MJ. We'll get you at the bottom of the hour. I got about 30 seconds, James.
Yeah, I used to have a shadow figure. I've told the story before, I'm pretty sure, that used to hang out just in my bedroom, which is a storage room closet. And eventually it left. But there is still some kind of invisible portal there, which I am pretty sure it came through and possibly left through as well.
The old doorways and portals and closets and under the bed, and indeed, damn right. I haven't had I'll tell you my shadow story later. Somebody remind me. There was a really creepy instance with this shadow type figure that came in. It came into the house. It straight opened the door. It was bizarre. In any case, we're still talking about this. So what do you know about the shadow biome? What about the Hat Man? What about this? Again, I'm calling it the cosmic Hat Man, the avatar of the universal mind. A very peculiar thing. We'll talk about this when we come back. This Hat Man stuff, it says that it was created somewhere around 2001, something to this effect. A blog went up, and so maybe we manifested this actual entity. Love to hear your thoughts on this. As always, non-linear, open-ended. Take it wherever you want. 702-957-1037. This is Troubled Minds on Michael Strange. We'll be right back with MJ in Virginia and your calls as well. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to Troubled Minds. I'm your host, Michael Strange. We're streaming on YouTube, Rockfin, Rumble, Twitter, and Twitch. We are broadcasting live on the Troubled Minds Radio Network. That's KUAP Digital Broadcasting. Tonight, we're taking your calls as we discuss the Hat Man, the shadow biome, and of course, this galaxy that has no dark matter. You combine all of these things into one idea, and suddenly it gets creepy, because what exactly is dark matter? What exactly is a shadow biome, and why are we seeing shadow figures, and including the Hat Man? Now, here's the weird part about the Hat Man. There's an origin to this, and it's new, apparently. Like I said, if you guys know anything different, I'm just getting my information from the interwebs and, trusting the sources, because, that's the world we live in. But there's this knowyourmeme.com, and it says this. The Hat Man is a fictitious and dark character commonly associated with visions seen during sleep paralysis, schizophrenic hallucinations, etc. So on June 1st, the origin here, the WordPress blog, The Hat Man Project, went live. This was 2008, documenting various stories and firsthand accounts of people who have encountered the shadow person known as the Hat Man. According to the blog's landing page, the project was started by a man named Timothy Brown, who began to collect stories about the mysterious figure in 2001. So this is what I mean. So if this is after the turn of the century, 1999, 2001, I mean, what's going on with this? Are we very Slender Man style manifesting this into reality by everybody knowing it? And by the way, it's blown up on TikTok too. It's become their paranormal go-to is the Hat Man. In any case, to add another wrinkle, are we actually manifesting this entity through, let's say, mass media intention? Love to hear what you think. 702-957-1037. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. We'll put you on the show. MJ in Virginia, how are you, my friend? Go right ahead.
Oh, doing great, Michael. How are you?
Doing well. Just talking about weird stuff. What do you know about shadow people and the Hat Man?
Hat Man, not so much. Shadow people, I've had a couple experiences with that, a couple other things too, but my front porch seems to be the place for that to happen. I look out my front yard, and I can see these 6 blob-like things flying around the yard. And I have an old ash tree that the electric company had to cut down, so I had them cut it up high. So when the cats are outside, they have several trees to climb, but this one they could get on top of and sit in case a neighbor dog comes over or a fox or something like that, so they can get up there and get away from it. And I'm sitting there watching, and all of a sudden I see these blobs just floating around the yard like they're racing around. There were 6 of them. And I'm looking, and I got really quiet, like I didn't want to draw any attention to them, have them see me or what was going on. And then they just flew into the trunk, disappeared.
That's wild. So what do you think is going on there? This is weird because there's a lot of different ways to look at this. People see orbs, people see shadows, people see all kinds of different things. How do we differentiate between what is what? Do you have a good rubric for us for the individuals that can't do out of body type stuff? How do we know when something's friendly or not friendly? And what do you think that exact thing was that story you just told?
I think there's like several different types of. It's almost like a freeway. Okay, think of it as a freeway. And you have a lot of different consciousness out there. I don't necessarily call them entities, but they form into an entity. But several consciousness out there and using the same system, so to speak. So I think a lot of them can link into it. Just it's different frequencies or different signature energies they can use. I've also seen dark matter, as a matter of fact. But I think partially that would be that, because you're looking at beings tapping into, let's say, our frequency, okay? And let's say there's a couple hundred different types of consciousness or beings that can find that and tap into it and use basically just say the frequencies erode, and they can tap into that where you can see it if you're, open enough to see it. And it doesn't take a whole lot of shifting of the mind to see this stuff. It's just be open to it. You have to let your mind relax.
Okay, that makes some sense. And so there's no good way to tell, right? It's basically just a feeling you get from the entity involved. Is that how? But I mean,
yeah,
wouldn't they?
You mean bad?
Yeah, good and bad. How do we know?
You mean bad, good, or indifferent?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a feeling you get. And you'll know. It's an intuitive thing, but you'll know whether it's threatening or... Because the ones I saw were just out, like they were just moving around. That's what they're doing. I didn't get anything from them at all. And there's been times to where, like my mom and I, when she was alive, we were sitting in the living room in her house, and all of a sudden my dog was there, and all of a sudden you hear this heavy footsteps on the front porch. It's during the day. And it sounded like, a 6'4" guy with heavy, and you hear this clump, 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 right up to the front door. My dog goes flying up to the door, and he's skidding on his back legs. His front legs are in the air, and all he saw was teeth and legs. And I had to push him away from the door. I had to grab him and pull him away from the door. I opened it, and there was nobody there. Absolutely nobody. And he was sitting at the door looking up like whoever it was, be a man, was 6'4", because the way he was looking up, he was looking up. He was looking, I know because I'm 6 foot, he looks at me, and he was looking up higher than that. So you have stuff like that going on.
That's creepy. That's very, very Slender Man style, like super tall. Was it super tall and skinny like Slender Man too?
Yeah, we never saw him. It was during the day. We just heard the noise, and then he went flying up to the door, and he was going through the screen door.
Oh, I see.
Nothing there for you to attack. But, I've seen dark. I told you about it before. I was sitting on my front porch, and it's always a front porch area. But I was looking across the yard, and everything just disappeared, and I could see this dark matter. It had some texture to it, and it had this odd webbing to it. And it was just moving very slowly from left to right. Very slowly. I'm just staring at it, watching, and you could see it's not a spiderweb thing, but it's a type of idea of spiderweb. but it looked like he was being held back. And I looked down, and then I, looked back up, and it was all gone, and the trees and the road and the field across the road was there, but it all disappeared for a little bit.
That's creepy. That's creepy. So in that sense, then, do you think there is sort of a shadow biome sort of encroaching on us all the time? And then if you're not paying attention, maybe it does happen to normies where they maybe pick up some of this information kind of unknowingly without trying. Maybe the other side is trying to contact us. Like, what does that look like in terms of dark energy, dark matter? And do you think there is sort of this maybe encroachment of beyond the veil happening, let's say in a just a I don't know, like a reality sort of blending sense? You think this is a real thing?
Yeah. Like I said, it's like a highway. We call it a veil. And the longer you do this, the more you look at it. And it's sort of like, to me, it's like a hallway in a sense. Like anything and everything, if it can find the hallway, it can be in that hallway. And now we're starting to find that hallway. More important, a lot of people have had these experiences. They just don't talk about them, or they don't acknowledge them. It's like something scared them, but they don't relax and look at it and see what, sort of investigate their own experience. But I see it more of a hallway, that there's doors, and people are, these beings or these, like the shadow people, Thin Man. It's a hallway we all get into, we can connect into. When you talk to when you're work or talk to the dead, you're creating that hallway, because it's an in-between place for anything. It's like a common place to communicate. And then at that point, you have, as above, so below, you're going to have neutral, positive, and negative coming into all of that. So, yeah, it's a very real thing.
I love it. I love it. That's why we talk about this stuff, because we can always teach each other something. What else should we know about these shadow people? And actually, before that, so keep that in mind as the follow-up question here. But regarding the Hat Man, and again, sort of a very much Slender Man style, like I was saying, according to this site, knowyourmeme.com, like I said, it may be off, but it says that Timothy Brown wrote this blog that he released in 2008. He started collecting stories about this Hat Man in 2001, and now it's become sort of this internet sensation on TikTok. Are we manifesting these entities in terms of, let's say, shadow people? Because it usually was just shadow people, nondescript shadow people, like James said, maybe different shapes of pets, these types of things, blobs, orbs, whatever. But then now we have like a face, like a, maybe not a face because it's a shadow, but we have an image, like an avatar of sorts. Are we able to manifest something out of that shadow realm and bring it here? What do you think is going on with this?
Yeah, you can shape it. You're basically, let's just say you're in that hallway and everybody's kosher, and you can manifest whatever you want to see. Or what really happens is you're telling, let's say, a shadow person of a manifestation of what you want to see or what you're expecting to see. So those energies can take place and can gather and make that. I mean, it's not an impossible thing. When they put that out on the internet, is it the tall man or the thin man? Tall thin man? Whatever that is. I don't like that. There's something about that coming in, and it's almost threatening to me. That's every time it's mentioned, I just feel like I'm being threatened by it. Like it's coming from a different area.
Slender Man, right? That's who you're talking about. Like the tall guy with like, yeah. Yeah, go ahead. Thank you. Just want to make sure we're on the same page there. Yeah. Okay. So you think we are? Yeah. We're shaping these things through the internet and through focused intention, right?
Well, I don't know if you're shaping them, but this particular one, what you could be looking at is, let's say, a very pissed off human spirit or a non-human spirit, let's say almost demon-like, that has clued into this and is able to characterize what you're thinking about. And as you do it more and more, it manifests more, and it also teaches this, the Slender Man, you call it Slender Man, or a being or energy, you're educating that more and more on how you want it to be, and then it's going to act act that part out. So yeah, it is. And there's stuff out there that you just don't. If they think the demons are bad, demons are nothing. There's stuff out there that are they're nasty, just nasty stuff.
Worse, huh? Okay.
But yeah, it's possible because you're educating and you're putting this out, so you're going to conjure by thought. And if everybody's thinking about the same thing over and over again, you've got that large number of people thinking about it. Yeah, it's possible.
Yeah, and so this is blowing up on TikTok, all the Hat Man stuff. So okay. So then the follow up there. So what do you think that the rest of us normies should know about these shadow entities? How do we handle these things? How do we know when we're sort of in contact? And what do we do to maybe not invite them in? By the way, Matt said in the chat there, the reason you're getting them on the porch is because your house is protected and they won't come inside. So I don't know, like I'm not sure if that's the case, but it sounds fantastic to me. But it seems like you know something that the rest of us don't. What else should we know? What would you want to tell the world?
Well, if you start encountering it, you can just simply say, one thing I do, and it's I learned that a while back, is when you're sitting there, and let's say you have something like that come in your house, you can simply say, the Christ in me greets the Christ in thee. You see? And that puts you on a level playing field. Because if it's not there, it can't communicate. And what you just did, and what I always say, is our frequency we're in the Christ frequency. So you just told this being what frequency you operate at. And you're also, by saying that, you're saying if you concur with this frequency, we're equal. And at that point, you basically have control of the shadow person. Because at that point, they have to agree to it or they're going to have to leave. It's just simply that. And you can just say that over and over again, say the Lord's Prayer, something like that. But that'll basically let them know that no. And that empowers you more with the frequency that you're in, to just keep things off. And Matt in the chat room is right. Nothing is allowed to come into my house. Most of it, not even on my property. For some reason, it's just totally, they're not allowed. But yeah. But that's what you can do to protect yourself with it. Just don't buy into it first off, and and say that little saying. Sounds kind of corny, but say it, and that just announces who you are. And now you tell me, and if you can't tell me, then I don't need to know you.
Yeah, that makes sense. Do you do anything else? Do you have sage or circle of salt type stuff? Any sort of protection runes? Do you do any of that stuff, or is it all just basically like a mental protection sort of guard thing?
I have no idea. If we're going to go off subject, also, I think I saw a pterodactyl fly. I was out in the desert one night, and this object was black and it was really low. And I was out in like the foothills, and it flew over the foothills. It got to the light to the sky, and it looked like it had a thin neck, like a pterodactyl head, but it went right over the hill. So that was another one. I'm not really sure about that. I just know that things cannot come here. They can be down the back of my property. Even dead people can't really show up. They can show up on the back of my property, and I'll mentally see them, and then I'll start talking to them. I had one come right up to the house one night, but for some reason they can't be here, and I don't know if there's just I have a protection being here, maybe because I was born here and born in this state, and my parents had the property beforehand. Maybe it's just built up a generation of energy or something like that. I don't know, but yeah, okay. They can't come in. My mom was here; they would come in, but with me, they don't.
Weird. So almost like she was inviting them, and you're not. Yeah, wild stuff.
Wild stuff. She was close to passing away. And usually when you start to pass away, stuff like that starts to happen, but it was happening 3 years prior to that. So I think she felt vulnerable, and by herself she was vulnerable. When I moved in, it started changing. And a lot of it stopped. I had stuff happen in the house when she was here. And but I think it's just the person is either being frightened by it and feeling helpless. They can sense that. And some are players, and they'll take advantage of it.
Yeah, that makes some sense. Per usual, right? Like there are people that will take advantage of when they sense weakness and the rest. So it does make sense that if there are entities elsewhere, they would sort of be similar. In Ouija board fashion, like I always say, we don't know who we're contacting. It could say, I'm, the spirit of grandma type of stuff. Do you think this is happening in the shadow realm, wherein maybe the reason I asked you is how do we know if they're, you a good witch or you a bad witch type of thing? Is it? Do you think they can mask that somehow and give you a good feeling about who they are when it's actually the opposite? Have you ever encountered something like that?
Yeah, they can do that. And then, because I was talking to this one dead guy, and he was, just pissed off. And I'm looking at it, I just saw this dark swirl of energy it was just like, and then I'm a demon. And I kept looking, it's like, no, you're not. It just, you do it enough and you start sensing it, because you just feel it and you're intuitive. You back off from it. You don't get like, oh my God, a demon. You're just like, okay, you're a demon. Okay. And you talk as if it's a normal person. And then when you start talking, you realize you start getting the feelings of, you're not a demon. And come to find out, it was just very, very pissed off. He was murdered by somebody. And he was just pissed off because he didn't feel like it was his time. And that's all it really was. So when they come in, absolutely. When we talk about abductions, people have screen memories type of stuff. I've never had that. I've always seen whoever abducted me. They don't hide that from me. But some people just get screen memories, don't make them feel comfortable or whatnot. They never tried to make me feel comfortable. But yeah, it's an intuitive sense, and you have to back off. You can't buy into what's going on in front of you. It's there. It's like, somebody threatened to kill you. It's like, okay, just back off for a minute and, examine the situation, and don't buy into it. Don't fall into it. Just don't get into the aspect of it for, as it's going on. Say, cool, look what's going on. Yay. And,
gotcha. Because they want to spin you up. They want to spin up your energy, right? So they can use more of that against you. Is that that's what's happening here?
Well, it's more like a manipulation type of thing. They really can't harm you in any real way. Once you become too aware of this, there's not much they can do, because you can block the energy or go, as soon as you figure them out, they're kind of out of ammo. They just don't have anything. But when they can absolutely come in and frighten people, and people are frightened by it, and they just tend to, do more and more. And once you find out, you can't, it's like, oh, you're going to scare me. Ooh, it's like, fine, scare me. And you start realizing what it is. What I found out in the long run, I just start talking. And, you have a name, do you go anybody's thing? And, and after a while, it just sort of dwindles down to nothing, because it's like basically, it's like you take their ammo away from them. It's what you do. I actually learned that through doing security guard for a bar. And it was in not the best part of town. And of course, you have all these people coming in. Just, drug dealers and whatever came in, and I would just talk them down. It's like sit there and start talking to them and look at them like I'm not believing a word you're saying. And you finally just whittle them down to nothing, and they would just go. I never had to do anything. So maybe it's me then. But, and it's the same thing. It's as above, so below. All that stuff exists physically in front of you, and then etherically, spiritually, it's all that way. It's just the awareness you have when this stuff happens and to what's really going on. Are they just passing through? That can happen, and you get frightened by it, and maybe your energy, turns their energy, and they start doing other things.
Okay, that makes a bunch of sense to me. I'm asking because there may be people out there that can't shake these sorts of things, and so I just kind of a PSA sort of situation. If you've had a lot of experience with this, it's good to get the word out for people that may be struggling with these types of things. And again, like I said, I don't even know personally if I believe this stuff is real, and I'm not saying you're lying. I'm saying I haven't experienced it. I'm saying that it's important because people do experience this type of stuff, and so it's good to get that information out. So I appreciate it very much. What else you got for us tonight?
I think it's about it.
You're the best. You're the best. I appreciate it very much.
More right now.
All good, all good. Keep an eye on the shadow folks and let us know if there's something else we should do. You're the best. Always a pleasure, MJ in Virginia. Thanks for calling. Thanks for being you, and have a fantastic night.
All right, thanks, Michael. Bye-bye.
Yeah, have a good one. There you go. Like I said, making good friends on this show, and MJ's been with us for years. And he was clearly, obviously, has some sort of psychic gift, and was a psychic for a long time, sort of professionally. I think it was professionally, like directly professionally. I mean, so like I said, this is good to talk to people because you never really know the types of things that you may encounter. And we're talking about all this stuff, the Cosmic Hat Man, this universal mind business. What about avatars? Are we actually conjuring them in terms of like this Hat Man thing? It used to be, 20 years ago was shadow people. And then suddenly kind of creeping up in the last, several, 5, 6, 7, 8 years, 10 years, it's been, this Hat Man situation since, again, 2008. And so the thing on my mind as part of this is pretty wild. Again, I'm going to read just a part on, on June 1st, 2008, the WordPress blog, The Hat Man Project, went live, documenting various stories and firsthand accounts of people who have encountered the shadow person known as the Hat Man. Now, the thing is, just because the blog went up doesn't mean that it's a brand new thing, because it was cataloging previous stories. So it makes me wonder, like, how new is this? And is it something, let's say, that we manifested collectively? I don't know. James, got a thought on that? We got a couple minutes if you got a thing to add.
Yeah, that is true. I do wonder if it's a mix of things or a chain reaction almost of things where a few people see these things, these different things, and then eventually they tell someone, and that someone else knows about it, and it does start to spread, and then maybe there is some connection there. It's hard to know. The other thing I wanted to say, I love the analogy of the hallway. I think that is really amazing. To me, that makes a lot of sense. But also the idea of manifesting, I wonder if that is how, in some of your, I've talked about this in shows before, in your places where there is a history of haunting, of apparitions in a location, whether it's shadows or clear images of people, but then when you look into the history of a location, you can't find anything to prove that this story or this legend happened. And yet people that go there still see the figure from that legend. So I think there is something to manifesting these things. But I wonder if it takes, I wonder how long it takes. I feel like it could take either a long time and or a lot of people if it's going to happen in a short amount of time. And so I think maybe the Hat Man thing is sort of a variant on the shadow figure that we have manifested. But then it's hard to say. And again, if these things can operate outside of time, then who knows? It could all be very circular as well.
Yeah, the old circular bit, the chicken or the egg. And again, that's theoretical because, of course, the dinosaurs laid eggs before there were chickens. See what I did there. In any case, it does bring to mind sort of the trope of the haunted hitchhiker, right? Like that whole thing. And it makes me wonder if we are creating these, and then the spiritual entities that are manifesting as such because it's what gets the attention. You know what I mean? That can actually manifest them in the physical world. I don't know. Like I said, never experienced any of this stuff myself, so what do I really know? But theories abound. What do you know about this, again, Hat Man? What about this Cosmic Hat Man? What about dark energy in the shadow biome? Does any of this work? Sorry, dark matter. Whatever. Love to hear your thoughts at 702-957-1037. This is Troubled Minds. I'm Michael Strange. Don't go anywhere. More, the Cosmic Hat Man, avatar of the universal mind, and your calls when we return. Be right back. We are talking about the alien abduction phenomenon.
The aliens are looking through your eyes and they're accessing your optic nerve. I'm doing fantastic. And through that optic nerve, they're transferring to your brain. People are coming. even random images as they traverse neurons in the brain.
We got, all right, so maybe,
and they also feel them planting or receiving memories or ideas or images.
Broadcasting live from a secret bunker just off the extraterrestrial highway. Somewhere in the desert sands outside of Las Vegas. From somewhere in space-time, loosely labeled Generation X on planet Earth. And asking questions of you in earnest into the digital darkness.
Good evening and welcome to Troubled Minds Radio. I'm your host, Michael Strange, and we're streaming on YouTube, Rockfin, Rumble, Twitter, and Twitch. We are broadcasting live on the Troubled Minds Radio Network. That's KUAP Digital Broadcasting. Tonight, we're taking your calls as we discuss the idea of shadow people. But not just shadow people. In the last, let's say, since 2008, when this blog hit the interwebs, a new shadow person has taken form. And this is the wild part to me about all of this, about sort of manifesting entities. Even, let's say with the quantum realm and manifesting a positive future, things like this, right? I mean, obviously there are going to be some situations where you can't just say specifically, oh, by the way, we have the worst of it in life and we can just meditate and change everything. Clearly, it's not as simple as that. Clearly, like the quantum realm superposition and the way this may work in terms of consciousness is complicated. And clearly you can't, manifest food when there is no food to be had. You get it? But I think in terms of sort of the paranormal world and the way this may work, as usual, because I have no answers, I just have more questions. That's what this is all about, is that what do we know about it? And in the terms of manifesting, if we go back to this is from, again, knowyourmeme.com. All these links are always in the description because, like I always say, it's very important for me to cite these sources so you know where I'm getting this stuff from. I'm not just randomly, flippantly making stuff up for the lulz, right? There's a lot of basis in a lot of this stuff we talk about. And I do speculate heavily because we take these ideas and then take it a step or 10 further. And that's what it's about. And I'll tell you when I'm doing that. Right here, I'm not. This is straight from this article. So we started tonight with a couple things. So a galaxy without dark matter presents head-scratching cosmic anomaly because, let's reframe here, astronomers have discovered a galaxy, NGC 1277, that appears to have no dark matter. Dark matter is an invisible substance that is believed to make up a significant portion of the universe. The galaxy should have between 10% and 70% dark matter, but observations suggest it has less than 5%. There are two possible explanations for this, according to the scientific postulating. The two explanations are either the dark matter was stripped away by gravitational interactions, or it was expelled during a merger, a galactic merger. Further observations are planned to solve this mystery. Okay, which is fine. Like I said, I love the science. I love these ideas. I love all of these things. But it does make me wonder about sort of the idea of the shadow biosphere. And are there entities? Is there an entity known as the Hat Man? We'll get to that in just a sec. Now, in these terms, like I said, here's the deal, too. Just so you guys know, the basis for these conversations is this. If you talk to a secular person, a materialist, or a secular materialist, they're going to say, come on, Mike, consciousness is local. There's no paranormal stuff. The world isn't like that. It's not real. Science is the way, etc. And I'll be like, yeah, cool. I get it. But then if you talk to somebody who's a religious person, devoutly religious, they believe in all manner of magic and creators and dare I say God and things like this. And again, like I said, if you ask the right question to 1,000 people, you're likely to get 1,000 different answers. And that's what this is all about. about these disparate realities, and there's got to be some sort of and I'm not trying to create a consensus reality. I'm trying to discuss what that might look like by merging these two worlds. And welcome to Troubled Minds. So back to this now. In terms of what we're doing tonight, as usual, we're taking your calls if you want to be part of the show. Like I said, love to hear you rather than hear me ramble on. I got lots of great stuff to say because I've come prepared, pro flex. But there's also, I'd rather learn from you, because people talking to people is one of the most dangerous things in this world anymore, because they tell us so. They tell us so not by those words. They tell us so by the actions of censoring speech. But in any case, so back to this. Now, the weird part in terms of dark matter and all the rest of these things and how it fits or doesn't fit, to me, is strange. And if we're talking about these dark matter shadow biosphere type entities, then, people have seen these things. The actual shadow people. Everybody knows what a shadow person is, even if you've never seen one. You've heard of them, of course, because it is very prevalent in the paranormal world. Now, back to the Hat Man. Now, enter the Hat Man. Now, this is the weird part. So, like MJ was saying, it's possible to shape these things. Now, are we sort of shaping these things through a collective intent, a collective attention, or something to this effect, right? Something like they do on TikTok, because right now the trending thing on TikTok in the paranormal game is the Hat Man. Okay, so real quick, I'm going to read a little bit from here from the Hat Man. Like I said, rather hear what you have to say. Do you know the drill? Phone number, troubledminds.org. It's all there. The Hat Man, sometimes called the Hat Man without the space, or the Dark Man, is a fictitious and dark character commonly associated with visions seen during sleep paralysis, schizophrenic hallucinations, or by DPH and deliriant abusers. The creepy humanoid is commonly theorized to be part of a cohort of spirits known as shadow people. The earliest mentions of the Hat Man on the internet include blog posts, YouTube videos, and 4chan discussions dating back to the late 2000s and spreading in the following decades. And the origin, now this is the weird part, right? If you can go to this, it's the Hat Man Project. I'll pull this website up and we'll take a look at it. But on June 1st, 2008, the WordPress blog, The Hat Man Project, went live, documenting various stories and firsthand accounts of people who have encountered the shadow person known as the Hat Man. According to the blog's landing page, the project was started by a man named Timothy Brown, who began to collect stories about the mysterious figure in 2001. As of October 2022, the blog has continued to post updated stories and accounts of Hat Man sightings throughout the years. The earliest accessible post was on the blog was made on October 30th, 2009, and the earliest known article posted to the blog was one about shadow people, a cohort of spirits or demonic figures who many believe the Hat Man may be part of. Okay, so I'll pull up this site in a sec, the Hat Man Project. Let me get this. And we'll look at the website. But here's the thing, right? So something like this, and we talk about this often on Troubled Minds, is that it's possible we're manifesting the future in these terms, with these wild ideas that we're kind of positing, because we're talking about things that are really outside of, the scientific spectrum, and really outside of, even sometimes we're ahead of the science fiction and this type of thing, which is good. It's a good thing to me. Like I said, I'm all for ideas and how this all fits or doesn't fit. But I mean, in those terms, are we actually manifesting this entity very much like Slender Man? And that the Wikipasta, they wrote it, these little girls believed it, and that two of them took one of their friends out and stabbed her as a sort of sacrifice to Slender Man, which again is a brand new concept. And so it brings to mind sort of the idea of these ancient entities, these ancient spirits or whatnot, that are maybe looking for a vessel to remanifest with the public attention. And the internet's doing that. The internet's, again, here's the Hat Man Project. It's on, I'll link it in the description, thehatmanproject.com. Like I said, I don't know this guy. I'm not pimping his thing or anything. I'm talking about this in terms of concepts, conceptual, conceptual reality, basically. But here you go. I dropped the link in all the places, and you can check it out if you want. But it's pretty cool. This blog has probably come a long way since it started. There's tons of articles. I mean, the guy's writing a book. I mean, it looks like hey, why not? But I guess the question becomes, in writing this blog and setting this thing up, is this sort of the entrance into the zeitgeist of the Hat Man himself? or the Hat Man itself, this entity, because now people see this because, well, maybe not. I don't know. As usual, looking to hear from you. I'll read some stuff off this website in just a sec, just to make sure we're on the same page. But what do you believe about this? Do you think there are shadow people? Have you seen shadow people? Reframe the questions from when we started tonight. What do you think about this galaxy that has an absence of dark matter? And dark matter itself, do you think that there is sort of a link between that and the shadow biosphere in terms of maybe entities close by, but also right here? Back to the thing. 702-957-1037. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. Anything on that, James? And I'm going to read a little bit from this website. I'm pretty sure this is new to me, so I doubt you've seen this, but maybe you have.
Yeah, I haven't seen it. I've heard of people starting similar projects regarding shadow figures. I really wonder, I feel like maybe the manifestation has to be a part of it, but I don't know if, and as you mentioned, everything is complicated. I don't know if just by seeing or going to that website, people will help to manifest or to create these things that other people see or that they see later on. Because I don't think everyone that visits, and same thing with movies, you hear about that with horror movies, where some people will have experiences after they watch the movie. And then there'll be sort of a thing that goes around the web saying, don't watch this movie, it's cursed. Well, then if you look at the numbers of how many tickets were sold at a box office for that movie, it's, the movie made so many millions, which means so many thousands, hundreds of thousands of people watched it, and yet did not have those experiences. So I think the question is, how do these things get manifested or get brought into this level of reality? What is the exact way or formula or method? Because I look at all the stuff we look at all the time for research for shows. If all of that could just basically come to life just by us looking at it, we'd be in trouble.
Yeah, which is part of this. Let me read a little bit from this website. And so this guy, again, his name's Timothy Brown. He says, hello, straight from the www.thehatmanproject.com. Link's going to be in the description. I'll add it to the link list as well if you guys are listening to the podcast tomorrow. So, hello, my name is Timothy M. Brown Jr., and I am the site owner, administrator, and researcher for the Hat Man Project. The purpose of this site is to research the phenomenon that has come to be known as the Hat Man. Reports of the Hat Man and other shadow beings have been on the rise within the last several decades. It was due to my own experience with this being, as well as my awareness of other people's sightings of the Hat Man, that I decided to begin this research project. I started this project in 2001, collecting what few stories I could find on the web at the time. Since that time, the site has received hundreds of stories from people all over the world. It has taken me the better part of 20 years to fully understand what this phenomenon is all about. And after years of research, I have finally come to a conclusion of who or what the Hat Man is, why he is appearing now, why he is appearing to people all over the world, and what to do if you are or have had an encounter with him. I'm currently writing a book about the Hat Man called The Hat Man Revealed. In this book, I plan to go into detail about the commonalities of the many hundreds of stories we've received over the years and what those commonalities reveal about this being and phenomenon. There will be no cost for this book, and I believe that this has become more of a mission of mine than anything else. This information needs to get out there. The aim of this website is to explore the stories of the many sightings that have been reported. This is the very first and only website dedicated, solely devoted and dedicated to researching, collecting, and archiving information and stories relating to the Hat Man. As more stories are researched and collected, they will be posted on the site regularly. Have you seen the Hat Man? If you know anyone who has had an experience, we would love to hear from you and add your story to this site. If you had, again, a sighting or an encounter, we would like to tell you, please post your story here, blah, blah, blah. Okay, there you go. So, and there's a bunch of stories here. And again, the book's coming. It tickles me a little bit that this guy's like, hey, this book's going to be free. So it's one thing. I think people should get paid for their work, and in those terms that people always get mad and like, oh, look at these guys just spinning tall tales to make some money. Well, in this case, that's not the case. But look, in terms of troubled minds, like I spent I can't even count the hours I spent on this show. And for me to be like, I'm going to do this for free forever, 7 hours from the time you put the show together, the time you edit and, upload. Come on. Like you got to give like a little bit of leeway in terms of let the people make the money that spend the time doing these things, So anyway, that's his prerogative. And like I said, it tickles me a little bit to know that this is going to be free. We're going to be able to access this. And maybe, just maybe, I can get this guy on the show. And that's the thing. That's the cool part, because I'd never heard of this guy, but he's got his contact information here. And so maybe I'll reach out and we'll talk. We'll in the future be able to talk to this individual about what he knows about the Hat Man and these shadow figures. What do you know about it? I'd love to hear your thoughts. 702-957-1037. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. Let's go to Jen. Jen in Missouri, welcome back to Troubled Minds. How are you? Apparently your computer took a crap right as we were finishing the last conversation, so we can finish it up here. How are you? And go right ahead. Test to test. 1, 2.
There we go.
There we go. Go right ahead. You're on Troubled Minds.
Yeah, I think that these beings I think that the shadow people and the Hat Man, I think that they are truly some type of entity. I mean, they are separate entirely from ghosts. I mean, people sometimes experience seeing spirits and they see shadows and things like that. But in these accounts, the way that these beings appear, the way that they display themselves is as if they have like a true creature. They are, I think, a true interdimensional being. I think they are capable of being in multiple dimensions, that they are somehow, or they are natural to this dimension. The problem is that if they are fourth dimensional or fifth dimensional, they would be able to see demons, like in the classic sense. Demons, from what I've understood, there's an autonomy to humanity, and their private thoughts and their ideas and their imagination is private to themselves. I think these things have access to that. These entities are different from typical spirits or hauntings. This is like a type of species. I feel that I don't feel like I'm just speculating. But I would say that these are some type of species, because there are alignments with the way that they time the way that they will interact with humanity, the way they interact with their host or with the person that they are interacting with. That they display that they have not only an autonomy of their own, but they are aware of the thinking of. In many of these accounts, it's as if they can read the mind. That's not typical of, say, a demon. And in the ecclesiastical field, it would say that a demon cannot read your mind, actually. And so demons is out the window. That's not a demon. Even in the loose New Age or even shamanistic belief systems would say that a demon is literally an emotional thought that can possess a person and cause them to feel the passions that they feel when they're experiencing things. That is not the case with these shadow beings. I don't know necessarily where they come from or what they would be associated with, but they display that if they are fourth dimension or fifth dimensional beings, or or even a higher dimensional being of some kind, which I think would be unlikely. But if that was the case, and they are displaying in a way that they have seen humanity display themselves with the hats, or perhaps they are deceased priests from some other era of the world itself. Perhaps they are a type of ghost. Perhaps they are, because the priesthoods of all the different of humanity go back to the beginning of humanity. So I mean, it could be possible this is a high archetype priesthood, or that they are some type of holder-ons, or perhaps they're purely vampiric. It's hard to say. But they don't always display an act vampiric. But I would definitely say that they are aware of the internal mind of people. And that violates and crosses a whole different line. Now, in the idea of like witchcraft, and the whole point of it is that you are in any ritual out of any religion, Catholicism, or any type of, even in Taoist magic, any of those types of magic forms, they are utilizing the ancient rituals that for them have been effective against ghosts and demons and other entities, which are all accepted, even in Taoist magic, every, of those traditional Hinduism. So any of the ancient star religions account that there is the spirit of the dead, that there are those spirits that they account with, and there are higher gatekeepers of different dimensions that are often guarding, referred to by many different names as, that we still apply to our living law today. And these completely seem to violate those laws that are given, but they also, from the accounts that I have heard about these shadow beings and Hatmen, they are there with their own agenda given to them by something else that has sent them to do whatever job they are doing. And they don't respond to the craft at all. And they don't respond to the rituals or the prayers the same way either. They're aware you're doing it, but it's as if I think they can see inside the minds and into the multiple dimension of the human body. For example, yes, we are operating 3-dimensional, but I think if they were 4th dimension or 5th dimension, they would see all of that revealed because it would not look the same to them. They would be able to see what you were thinking in live action. And that's why they respond in an intuitive way as they do. So these beings are not fitting, and they're not common. I mean, from the accounts people tell when I'm just talking to normal people, like even what I have experienced, I'm not sure that I necessarily experienced this particularly, but I believe that I did experience shadow beings, but not in the sense of the peripheral. I mean, like these beings seem to be operating in our dimension with us, not very commonly. And sometimes it's just for like a season or something, that they are there for some type of purpose for a short amount of time and then they are gone. Like they just there doesn't seem to be a rhyme or reason. You could equate that you were doing certain rituals at the time, or you were saying certain prayers, or you changed something about your lifestyle, and perhaps that's what affected it. But that doesn't seem to be the case. It seems to be that they leave and go at their own will of what they're doing. Some people have counted that they have said certain incantations and it makes them go away. That's and perhaps that is the case. It's not being studied widely enough, and because I think there's too much skepticism about it being realistic, even though it displays in people who are not prone to seeing things per se. So, I mean, and people respect that a great deal more. That's what they have been doing in the governments anyway, is studying this very deeply. And I wouldn't be surprised if they are interacting with these beings on some level, or if they are not gleaming some type of information from these beings. It's hard to say. But I do think that it's very important.
Yeah, I definitely.
They're not going to do anything with it.
Yeah. A lot of the stuff we talk about, I think, is it seems frivolous and not important at all. But I think it is to consider that if this is a real phenomenon, then people need to be talking about it and studying it. Real quick, we got about a minute left. What do you think about manifesting this thing? Did it exist before the year 2000 or so? And is this sort of an archetype we're building in real time going forward, or do you think this has been something that's been here for thousands of years?
I think that humanity is capable very easily of creating thought forms, and that's usually to blame for most of this. Most of the things that people are experiencing are created by thought forms, and they lose control of it. Getting overly passionate about anything, especially if you're involved in esoteric arts or anything of the kind, or even just mind working or new age efforts or whatever, even religion, if you get very deep into it, your own passions about that can manifest into a thought form, and you can lose control of it, and it can become a vampire that feeds off of you. But in these cases with these, they come unannounced out of nowhere and seem to go just the same way that they came. And there's no rhyme or reason to why they arrived to begin with. And they typically target children and elderly people. And they are not the shadow of death necessarily, because that displays completely differently.
Because that guy doesn't wear a hat. He wears a hood and has a sickle. You're the best, Jen. We're out of time. I appreciate it very much. Thanks for popping back in, saving my ass. You too. That's Jen from Missouri. Give her a follow. The Arcane Observer. Links in the description. troubledminds.org/friends. Give her a follow. We'll talk to James when we come back. What do you know about this hat man? You think it's real? Nah? Somewhere in between. Be right back. More Troubled Minds on the way. Welcome back to Troubled Minds. I'm your host, Michael Strange. We're streaming on YouTube, Rockfin, Rumble, Twitter, and Twitch. We are broadcasting live on the Troubled Minds Radio Network. That's KUAP Digital Broadcasting. Tonight, we're talking about shadow people, but not just the ones you think. As of 2008, a blog was started called the Hat Man Project. And what sort of happened as a result is this idea of the Hat Man, a shadow person, again, as you would expect, a shadow figure wearing a hat, an old school hat, a fedora, a top hat, this type of thing. People have described different versions of these hats, like Jennifer said earlier, that some large, massive hat that seemed ridiculous, something just definitely out of this time. Now, the weird part is regarding this is, everybody's heard of shadow people. Okay, that's the thing. But in this sense, the Hat Man himself seems to have his basis back in this website in 2008. Again, the link's going to be in the description. Timothy Brown Jr. is the guy who did this, and it makes me wonder if we're actually manifesting these entities some way, or maybe calling them to us, or a very, Stephen Greer CE5 type of thing, the Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, which is intentional contact with entities elsewhere. And however you feel about that, look, I don't care. Also, meaning that I don't care if you think it's right, wrong, or indifferent. That's why we talk about this, because these ideas are more important than, just an opinion. And that's why I try to have, as little opinion as possible when it comes to this stuff, because I think it's important to talk about the concept and not really worry about who's right or wrong regarding this. Because, look, maybe we've talked about the most important thing ever in the human history on Troubled Minds at some point, and maybe we don't even know it yet. Like, this is the type of stuff I'm talking about. We don't know what we don't know yet, and so let's talk about all of it and consider what's what. So is it possible then that these shadow entities, first, what do you know about shadow entities? Two, do you think that the shadow entity and this new one, this particular overlord of the shadow people, I guess, the Hat Man, is manifested by us or otherwise? And what do you think is going on with this? Love to hear your thoughts. So we got one final segment. If you have anything to add, love to hear what you think. 702-957-1037. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. We'll put you on the show. It's as easy as that. Let's go to James. Anything on what Jen said or what I added? I got some weird stuff to get to in a sec. So I'm gonna take this full cosmic strange. But what do you got to add? And if it's a little, that's okay. You know the deal, bro. As you got it, let's roll it. If you don't, it's all good. What you got?
Yeah, great call from Jen again and everyone tonight. I do agree. It's just like all paranormal. It's not studied enough, and I think it should be. I think the problem when it comes to shadow figures is the variety of shapes and sizes, the way some have glowing eyes, some don't, the way they seem to have all kinds of intentions, good, bad, and different. I think that just it makes it hard to pin down for sure any one of them being different from another. But the other thing I was thinking of just now is going back to the sightings. If they go back far enough, the apparition of this shadow figure having a hat might not seem that out of place. People might just report them as shadow figures, even if they have the hat. If you're talking going back decades, a century, 2 centuries, whatever, if you could get those reports from that far back, what if this Hat Man has been around, but it's just making an appearance more now because it seems odd. It seems out of place based on our current ways of like our current fashion styles.
Yeah, it's weird too. I don't know if you've ever saw the movie Poltergeist 2. There's a guy in there. He's part of like the spirit group. I think he's an actual, like, he may be what manifested the Hat Man. I'll look up the date on this in a sec. But he was like walking through town or in front of people's houses and singing something like "God is in the Holy Temple," and he was like this really just spooky, creepy older man. And he was dressed in all black, and it's hot outside, and he's got the hat on that very, very closely mimics the style of this hat. I'll see if I can pull up an image. But I mean, it does make me wonder if these types of things, like, again, we always talk about pop culture, the zeitgeist, and how some of this stuff resonates or does not, going viral becomes a thing. Well, right now on TikTok, go look it up. Hat Man is going nuts viral. And so it makes me wonder, like, what the hell's happening here? And they say that it has something to do with, a particular drug trip or, I don't know. I'm not into drugs. I don't do them. It's one of those things. Hey, I'm an 80s kid. They told me back in the day, this is your brain, the frying pan, crack the egg. This is drugs. This is your brain on drugs. And so I'm saying, hey, come on now. The propaganda worked, and I'm just drinking beer. But in any case, then I'm just making fun of myself, of course. But in the end of this, what does it look like with these entities, and what does it mean for us long term? And are we, let's say, back to the zeitgeist and sort of surfing that zeitgeist wave with this old movie Poltergeist 2 and the God is in the Holy Temple song and this creepy guy in the hat and everything? You think that we're actually sort of manifesting these in terms of exactly that? It keeps coming back to that to me personally, because it seems relevant here. It seems like these ideas that we put forth are somehow coming true in some sense, at least in movies and Hollywood and whatever else. But then look, in the old days, like, think about this, like 1985, the only way to go viral was to put out like a Hollywood movie or something. Like, you couldn't go viral with like writing a letter and posting it on an actual physical bulletin board somewhere. It was never going to happen. Nobody could take a picture of it, put it on social media. You know what I mean? And so the world has changed so much that since 1985, for instance, that I think that we should consider that maybe these ideas of manifesting things aren't so ridiculous anymore, because we all have access and can share ideas instantly. I don't know. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I think maybe that that modern internet ability could help manifest things more. It's hard to say, given how far back experiences go, to me. That's why my only not problem, but my only confusing factor there. Again, just with people, that the way they used to dress, and I mean, even if you think about it, Men in Black also wear dark clothes. So are some of these shadow figure related to Men in Black in that they're like they're Men in Black in that different dimension, whatever Men in Black are? In some cases, you hear about them knowing, and this is maybe going completely off, but you hear about them knowing things that they shouldn't be able to know.
Yeah, well, exactly. And I don't know. I think the world is a weird place, man, and that's why this stuff is important. But you don't recall Poltergeist 2 and this weird guy, and I got his image up on the thing. There's a clip I could play. I should play it, but there's like copyright considerations, and they might take the video down, so I don't want to do that. I will link it in the description if you want to watch the clip where he's like walking through town singing this just weird song. God is in the Holy Temple, I think is what he said. But the image of this dude is just terrified, and whoever the actor is that played this is magnifique. It's so good. It's so freaky.
Yeah, I've never seen that movie, but if you think of even just in movies and books, I mean, Freddy Krueger, I've seen images of him wearing dark hat, dark clothes, and he is associated with, at least in the movies, anyway, dreams and all that. You also have, there's a character in Stephen King's books known as Randall Flagg that was called literally the Dark Man. And people would see him in their dreams as sort of a shadowy figure with red eyes. And so there are references throughout these last several decades of sort of figures that are dark, but maybe even in different ways, whether it's dark as in negative or dark as in how they appear. So that aspect is definitely there, and I think with the internet, it's definitely helped get all that out there to even more and more people who even haven't even read or seen all those movies, but now, like you said, there's a clip, boom, you can watch it. So that's definitely part of it.
Yeah, it seems like it. It sure seems like it. All right, I'm gonna introduce like some super wild ideas. You know me, like I went full ridiculous cosmic here. Now check this out. Regarding this, we started tonight with this idea of a galaxy without dark matter. Again, has less than 5%. A galaxy of its size is expected to have at least somewhere in the range of 10 to 70% dark matter, et cetera, so on. It got me thinking in terms of the shadow biosphere and what it means cosmically. All right, so there you go. If you've been here for this long, to the end of this, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So let's consider the intriguing case of NGC 1277 within this conceptual framework. The lack of detectable dark matter in this galaxy could suggest a place where dreams are scarce or non-existent. Perhaps it's a region of the universe devoid of sentient life, a silent corner of the cosmic dream theater. This GPT-3PO can be good. Alternatively, NGC 1277 could be a place where dreams are so vivid, so intense, that they have altered the nature of dark matter itself. The collective dreams or nightmares of this galaxy might be so powerful that they transform the canvas of dark matter into something our instruments can't yet detect. And so basically the premise is this: a dark matter serving as the universal canvas upon which the dreams and nightmares of sentient beings are projected. The idea paints a picture of the cosmos not simply as a physical entity, but as a vast, ever-changing dreamscape. It suggests that dark matter, rather than being an elusive physical substance, could be the cosmic screen onto which the hopes, fears, aspirations, and anxieties of all conscious beings are cast. How do you like that theory, James? In terms of, we always talk about the dream world on Troubled Minds, and shout out to Axel Steele if you're out there. Uluru is a place in Australia known as the center of the dreaming, or dream time. And it is, I don't know, the dream world's magnificent, but what if it's a place here in our universe, and it's sort of not through the ether itself, through the veil, but what if it's instead sort of encapsulated or twisted around in this idea of dark matter, and in the sense a tapestry or screen wherein we dream together in these spaces. I don't know, man. It seems pretty wild to me. A lot of things I came up with just, again, brainstorming with my amazing new assistant. As you know, James has now gone full cyborg as well, and wild stuff. What do you think about that in terms of the actual dream time being encapsulated into dark matter itself as a place in our realm, not outside of it, inside of it, and we just can't really detect exactly what's happening? You think that's wild, or too wild for you?
No, not too wild. I'm just thinking, what if, when, again, if going with that idea, if we are in a part of the universe that is full of all this dark matter, dark energy, and we have dreams, and in some cases I wonder if part of why dreams are so weird to us at times is because we're surrounded by that stuff so close. But then if you have it, or maybe is it so far away? Again, going back to the idea that maybe all that dark matter that's in that galaxy is like clustered onto the different planets where there are beings there. What if they're having the most vivid dreams ever that we can never have here because this dark matter, dark energy is outside the planet, out there in space? And we only get glimpses of it. We're basically staring at the screen from outside the theater, if you know what I mean there. Whereas they're right in there. They're right in the front row of the theater.
Yeah, well, I think that's part of the deal here in terms of this thing being like the dream tapestry. Like I said, there's a lot of ways to look at this, and I think it's fascinating as hell that maybe, just maybe, all the places we expect to be outside of our universe are maybe inside. We just don't know how to find them or quantify them. A new study came out. We'll talk about this in the next week or 10 days or 2 weeks or whatever as these things happen. But, as you know, like I said, I only talk about what I'm inspired to do in the moment, because otherwise, what are you doing? You know, like it feels like a job if you're talking about things that are uninteresting. So I've got some, as usual, James knows I've stacked up like 30 ideas. And so what I'll do tomorrow is whatever I feel like doing tomorrow. And I think it's most important because otherwise, for my sanity, number one, and two, it seems like I stack some ideas sometimes and then something happens wherein it seems relevant to talk about it in the moment. It's weird. It's weird how that starts to become a thing. But anyway, amazing stuff as always, James. The Night Stalker, shout out to Night Stalker. Again, the conversation with him last night on the Discord really spawned the idea for this show. But he just popped into the chat and said this in the chat, Indrid Cold. And if you guys don't know who this guy is, this is from cryptidsfandom.com, which we had the Hat Man on as well. But listen to this. Indrid Cold, commonly known as the Smiling Man, is an alleged humanoid entity. The nickname comes from the being's tendency to smile at almost everyone that encountered him. It is said that he still visits West Virginia to this day. And so the Grinning Man is reported to be human-like in appearance, though he is commonly associated with UFO activity and is sometimes believed to be an alien. It is also believed to be possible that he's connected with the Men in Black. In his first sighting, he was described as being over 6 feet tall and wearing a reflective green suit with a black belt. He had a dark complexion and small beady eyes set far apart. He was described as not having any nose, ears, or hair. In his second known encounter, his suit was said to be blue instead of green, but still retained its reflective property. Other than that, he was described as looking perfectly natural with slicked back hair, a coat with the top two buttons unbuttoned, and having pants lighter than the coat, but still the same material. He was described as being quite tan, though not dark, and looking like any normal human being. According to reports made by Woodrow Derenberger, Indrid Cold came from a planet named Lanulos in the Ganymedes galaxy. Oh my goodness. And there were two other grinning men by the names of Demo Hassan and Carl Lando. This seems very fanfic. But I don't know, man. I've heard the name Indrid Cold. And to take on that, James, as we're almost out of time, I'd love to hear your thoughts. We got about 10 minutes left. If anybody wants to pop in here and say hey and talk about this Cosmic Hat Man or anything else, what do you got, James, in terms of Indrid Cold? Do you think this is possibly, instead of the Shadow Man, maybe, or some shadow biome entity, maybe it's like a physical entity? Does that creep you out a little bit more?
Well, that's what I'm wondering, is if these things can go transition between different levels of reality. They appear physical, and as Cold is described there. And just also to mention, there have been other sightings of other grinning men wearing all black before. There's a lot of similarities or crossovers between this Grinning Man, this Shadow Man, Hat Man, and as well as, again, this is why I always say the Slender Man thing. The only difference as far as visual appearance is it's a shadow figure that looks almost like a man with possibly a hat that also has tentacles sticking out of the back of it or going out all around it.
That's Slender Man. That's totally Slender Man.
Yeah. So there's all these figures that are just slightly different, that are seen outside, even in the middle of the day at different times. But then you also have these shadow figures that are seen at night. And I wonder if, when they're always out there in the day doing different things, but then when it's night, again, connecting it to possibly sleep and dreams, and maybe they have missions that they're supposed to do, whether it's just to observe, whether it's to collect fear energy, as some seem to do, whether it's protection. I've heard of a few stories here and there where shadow figures appear to alert people of either break-ins or danger coming, or they seem to really, there's not one intention for all these things. So yeah, that's a whole thing, and that's why, again, I think it's so complicated to try to figure out where they come from, who they are, how much of them we manifest, how much we don't. It's all very, very shadowy.
Very shadowy. Well said. Yeah, and I think looking at dark matter is sort of the veil, or even the dream world. I really love that theory, and there's a bunch of others too. If you guys want to like blow up your brain and see what the Oracle, the modern day Oracle of Delphi, or of GPT is talking about. Again, like I'm becoming a pro at brainstorming with this thing and telling it what I want. It spits out garbage. I'm like, no, come on, let's do better than this. We can do better than this, and it does. If you know how to talk to this computer, the OK computer, everything's going to be just fine, guys. Everything's going to be just fine. But let's see. There's another thing here too. So in terms of like the dream, sort of a conceptual framework of the dark matter being the dream space of people or conscious entities. There's other things too. The super wild one in the bottom here. And let's get to let's see. Okay, dark matter. Okay. Where is it? This will blow your brain up, because this was my favorite theory, and it was the last one that kind of came out. I wish I started with this one, and then the show would have been different. But we'll do this another time. So, alternatively, let's see. Okay, this galaxy with no dark matter or very little dark matter could be a place where dreams are so vivid, so intense that they have altered the nature of dark matter itself. The collective dreams or nightmares of this galaxy might be so powerful that they transform the canvas of dark matter into something our instruments can't yet detect. I talked about that. This idea, while speculative, okay, blah blah blah. The idea of dark matter as the medium through which now this is where this gets weird in terms of the actual emotional tidal waves, like we hinted in the past of a show coming, but this will probably turn into another show down the road, because this idea is so big. But let's see, the perspective, where is it?
Universe
okay.
something. I know you said that.
Yeah, thank you. Lots of words. 3,000 words. It's hard to find the exact point you left off. The idea of dark matter as the medium through which universal emotions flow presents a compelling, if unconventional, perspective on the fabric of the cosmos. Now, the point is, so maybe not just a dream world in dark matter. What if sort of the emotional aspect of people or conscious entities are wrapped up in this? And when we talk about, I started this when we started tonight, with the idea of things being in the air, maybe this is in the air. Maybe this dark matter sort of wrapped up. But let's see. So it suggests that the universe is not just a collection of celestial bodies and physical forces, but a vast sea of emotions, a cosmic symphony resonating with feelings of every sentient being. In this context, dark matter could be the conduit for these emotions, the invisible threads connecting all beings across the universe. It might carry the joy of a human on Earth, the curiosity of an intelligent life form in a distant galaxy, the survival instinct of the simplest life form, each emotion having its unique imprint on the dark matter field. This perspective endows dark matter with a quality that is both deeply personal and profoundly universal. It turns dark matter into a mirror reflecting the emotional states of sentient beings across the universe, a cosmic barometer of feelings on a universal scale. With this in mind, this galaxy NGC 1277, with its apparent lack of dark matter, assumes a special significance. If dark matter is the medium through which emotions flow, the absence of detectable dark matter could suggest, this is amazing, an overwhelming presence of emotional energy. NGC 1277 might be a place where emotions, joy, sorrow, fear, anticipation, and countless others are so intense that they have transformed the dark matter, making it unrecognizable to our current detection methods. Like I said, blowing up your brain. There's a lot of things here in terms of it's conceptual thought. It's turning everything we can conceive of on its head and wondering what's really happening out there. Because if we are the antenna, if consciousness is not local, the world becomes an incredibly weird place. And by extension, all the rest of the universe becomes incredibly weird as well. Shout out Android Paranormal, OG Skywatch. I see you guys in the chat. James, we got about a minute left if you have anything to add to that, and let's wrap this MFer. What you got, brother?
Yeah, it seems like so many paranormal accounts of the paranormal, whatever's going on, there's always emotion. Whether it's positive or negative, it's always there. So what if this galaxy is sort of the source of all of that? And maybe even what if every one of those emotions out there has a physical form only in that galaxy?
Indeed. And that's why we talk about this stuff, because again, like I said, it is the stuff of science fiction. It is the stuff of a futurist thought that nobody's really considered just yet, and it may be completely false. And that's fine by me. Like I said, all theories start out as nonsense until somebody replicates and through the scientific method turns them into science. And so I'm not concerned about replicating. I'm concerned about pioneering ideas. And of course, that's what we're doing together. And that's what this is all about. You guys know him. You love him. Special thanks to James for popping back in here again, saving my ass night after night. I always say, and it's the truth, James is the glue of this show. He's so conscientious in so many ways. He's like, hey, if there's a lot of calls, I'll cut it short. If you don't have a lot of calls, I'll pop in later, Mike. You know what I mean? He's that guy that literally makes the show go. Please give James a follow. Such a special guy and such a good dude. Do the thing. troubledminds.org/friends. Search it directly. It would be exactly like you expect. Salcido Paranormal. That's SALSIDO space paranormal. And there you go. You're the best, James. Appreciate it. Thanks for popping back in. Thanks for saving my ass. You're amazing.
Take care.
You too. As we finish, it goes like this. Look, I don't know. No answers, just more questions. And that's what this has always been about, just asking questions and wondering about the wide world around us. Is, I don't know, are archetypes phony because we can't quantify exactly what they mean? Not so sure. Thanks for listening. If on the radio, you're the best. From our troubled minds to yours, have a great night. And to continue for just another moment, again, special thanks to all the amazing people that make this show go. Links in the description. James, of course, chief among them. And everybody else, do the thing in troubledminds.org/friends. Follow all of these people, buy their books, do the things, download their podcasts and listen to them. Like I said, this is not just me, this is us. I'm me, you're you, together we're us. It's an incredibly important concept. Like I said, if people talking to each other was so not dangerous, why are the powers that be so pissed off that we talk to each other? Think about it. Think about it. All right, as we finish, if you want to help Troubled Minds directly, you know what to do. Number of ways. TroubledFans.com. You can buy the hats, the shirts, and whatnot. There's Synchro Mystic shirts. There's all kinds of things. New stuff coming as well. Like I said, I'm a one-man army here in terms of like sort of clicking the buttons, so it's difficult to keep up and do all the things I'd like to do. But if you got ideas for merch, let me know. We can make something happen. And do the thing. TroubledFans.com. You will not find Michael Strange in a hot tub, but you will find the hottest Troubled Minds merchandise. Of course, the other ways, if you want to, let's say, spend money directly in tip or sub up, Rockfin and Rumble are both options because we've been demonetized on YouTube 5 years ago, which is embarrassing and terrible. Why are we still there? And there you go. So sub up those places. If you want to help other ways, Patreon, Buy Me a Coffee works as well. Twitch is last because they take 45%, and that sucks. Twitch, if you don't want me to say it, don't do it. The other ways, look, spread the word. If you don't have money to spend or don't want to spend money, it's fine. This is not about extorting you for like your last penny. I don't like. It's not. That's not that. You can help. Retweet these shows. Put them on Reddit. Let people know on Facebook. All the rest of this stuff. All that counts. And look, if you do any of that stuff, let me know, and I'll put you in the Troubled Minds Friends if you got something. If you got a blog or you got whatever. If you want to sell something, it's fine. Like you help me, I'll help you. That's what this is about. Let's be it together. Be it together, okay? That's that. So so in the end, listen. If you want to help, it's completely free as usual. Look, a lot of ways to do this free is to listen to the podcast feed. It's over. We're nearing 700 episodes. Can you believe that? 5 years of Troubled Minds, 700 episodes, and all manner of conversations, as you can imagine. Just go fire up something on Spotify, Good Pods, or iTunes. Wherever you get your podcast, it's completely free, and just let those ads run. If you don't let the ads run, you skip them, then Michael Strange doesn't get paid. And Michael Strange is very sad when Michael Strange doesn't get paid for all the hours that I put into this. So like I said earlier, it's not embarrassing to ask to get paid for the time you spend, and so please let the ads run. I appreciate it very much. Listen to the podcast feed. It's the easiest way, the best way to help. And as we finish, it goes exactly like this. Be sure, be strong, be true. Thank you for listening. From our Troubled Minds to yours, have a great night. Thanks again, James. You're the best, brother, and we'll catch you guys tomorrow.